You weak bitch! The words exploded across the rifle range at Naval Special Warfare Training Center, Coronado, California. August 15th, 2024, 1400 hours. Master Chief Vincent Drake stood inches from her face, veins bulging, spit flying. 26 years of SEAL legend behind those words. Behind him, 47 candidates held their breath. Maya Chen didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She simply said 5 words that would change everything. What happened in the next 30 seconds would become military legend. But to understand that moment, you need to know what brought a 21-year-old woman with 23 confirmed kills to this place. If you want to see how this satisfying confrontation unfolds, subscribe to my channel and stay until the end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The bus stopped at 0437. Maya Chen was the last one off. She did this deliberately. 23 months of operational training had taught her to never enter a space without knowing who was already in it. 46 other candidates had already formed a loose cluster near the intake building. They shuffled their feet. They whispered nervously. They did all the things that marked them as exactly what they were, recruits who had never seen real combat. Maya stepped onto the concrete and felt the Pacific air hit her face. Salt and diesel and something else. Something that smelled like fear and ambition mixed together. A massive figure emerged from the intake building. Listen up. The voice hit like a physical force. Conversations died mid-word. Bodies snapped to attention with varying degrees of success. Master Chief Vincent Drake walked toward them with the measured stride of a man who had never once doubted his place in the world. 48 years old, 6'3", 240 pounds of muscle that had been built in combat zones, not gyms. His eyes swept the group like searchlights looking for weakness. They found Maya immediately. She saw it happen. The slight pause, the narrowing of his gaze, the almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw. She had seen that look before, many times. It was the look men gave when they saw something that didn't fit their understanding of how the world should work. I am Master Chief Vincent Drake, he announced. For the next 16 weeks, I own you. Your time, your effort, your pain, all of it belongs to me. He began walking through the group, forcing candidates to part around him like water around a stone. 70% of you will not complete this program. That's not a threat. That's mathematics. Look at the person on your left. Look at the person on your right. 2 of the 3 of you will be gone before Christmas. He stopped directly in front of Maya. The silence stretched. Name, he said. Private Maya Chen, Master Chief. Age, 21, Master Chief. And something flickered across his face. 21, and you think you belong in a Joint Terminal Attack Controller Assessment Program. I don't think, Master Chief, I know. The words came out before she could stop them. 23 months of answering to no one had eroded her ability to perform the expected deference. Drake leaned closer, close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. Is that right? He said softly. And what exactly makes you so certain, Private Chen? Maya held his gaze. My record, Master Chief. Your record. He laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. I tried to pull your record private. You know what I found? Maya said nothing. Black ink, redactions, classification levels that a private should not have anywhere near her file. His voice dropped lower. So I'm going to ask you one time, and I expect a straight answer. What are you really doing here? I'm here to train, Master Chief, same as everyone else. No. He shook his head slowly. No, you're not the same as everyone else. Everyone else I can read. Everyone else I understand. You... He stepped back, looking at her like she was a math problem that refused to add up. You, I don't understand. And things I don't understand get people killed. He turned away from her abruptly. Form up 4 ranks now. The first 3 hours were designed to break spirits. Maya recognized the methodology. Physical exhaustion combined with psychological pressure, calibrated to identify the candidates who would crack under the compound stress of combat operations. Push-ups until arms gave out. Sprints until lungs burned. All of it conducted under Drake's relentless observation. "Chen, your form is sloppy." Maya adjusted her push-up position. It wasn't sloppy. They both knew it. "I said sloppy, Private, start over one." She started over. Around her, other candidates struggled. A large man 3 positions to her left was breathing in ragged gasps. A woman behind her had already vomited once and was fighting to keep going. "Martinez, you call that a push-up? My grandmother does better push-ups, and she's been dead for 15 years. The insults flew constantly. Drake moved through them like a shark through bloody water drawn to weakness, amplifying failure, crushing any sign of individuality. But he kept returning to Maya. "Chen, you're falling behind." She wasn't. "Chen, did I give you permission to rest?" She hadn't rested. "Chen, that's the worst sprint time I've seen today. It was actually the 3rd best." The other candidates noticed. Of course they noticed. She could feel their sideways glances, their whispered speculation during the brief moments when Drake's attention was elsewhere. Who was she? Why was she being singled out? What had she done to earn the Master Chief's focused hostility? Maya kept her expression neutral and her mouth shut. She had learned long ago that explanation was weakness. Results were the only language that mattered. At 1100 hours, Drake called a water break. Maya moved to the edge of the group and drank in measured sips. Hydration was survival. You never gulped water, you processed it steadily, giving your body time to absorb what it needed. "Hey!" She turned. A young man had approached her, tall, broad-shouldered, with the easy confidence of someone who had probably been an athlete his entire life. "I'm Jackson," he said. "Thomas Jackson, Alpha Squad." "Chen." "Yeah, I caught that." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Drake seems to have it out for you pretty hard." Maya said nothing. "Look, I don't know what your deal is, but some friendly advice. Don't make waves. Drake is connected, like seriously connected. Guys who piss him off have a way of finding their careers suddenly very short. Thank you for the advice. I'm just saying there's no shame in knowing when to bow down a little. Play the game. Let him feel like he's winning. It's only 16 weeks. Maya looked at him for a long moment. "Is that what you do, Jackson? Bow down?" His smile faltered. "I do what's smart. Then we have different definitions of smart." She walked away, feeling his stare on her back. She had made an enemy. She didn't care. 23 months of real operations had burned away any concern for politics or social maneuvering. There was only the mission. Everything else was noise. Fall in squad assignments. Drake stood before them with a tablet in his hands, reading names with the enthusiasm of an executioner reading sentences. Alpha Squad, Jackson Thomas, Rodriguez Maria, Brennan Kyle, Patterson David, Williams Sarah. The names continued. Maya watched the squads form 5 members, each arranged with what appeared to be careful consideration of skills and backgrounds. She noticed something interesting. The candidates Drake had praised, however grudgingly, were being grouped together. The ones he had criticized were being separated, scattered across different squads. Divide the strong, isolate the weak. Classic methodology. Shadow Squad. Drake's voice changed when he said those words. Flatter, harder. Chen Maya. She stepped forward. Morrison Eric. A man moved to stand beside her. Young, maybe 23, with hollow eyes and hands that trembled slightly. Maya recognized the signs immediately. Trauma, possibly PTSD. Something had happened to this man, and he was still carrying it. Thompson Jerome. Another man joined them, African-American mid-20s with a military bearing that suggested prior service. But there was something else in his posture, a defensiveness, a readiness for confrontation that spoke of experiences beyond standard military. Gutierrez Carlos. A third man, Latino, early 20s with gang tattoos partially visible beneath his sleeves. His eyes moved constantly, scanning for threats, cataloging exits. Street survivor instincts overlaid with military training. Finally, Reese Amanda. A woman limped forward to join them. She moved with obvious pain, favoring her left leg. A knee injury, Maya assessed. Probably recent. Probably the reason she was here instead of wherever she had been before. Drake looked at the five of them with an expression of profound contempt. "Shadow Squad," he announced to the entire company. "The washouts, the broken, the ones who shouldn't be here but somehow slipped through the cracks." He pointed at each of them in turn. Morrison here failed the psychological evaluation. Twice. Thompson was rejected from 3 other programs for attitude problems. Gutierrez has a criminal record that should have disqualified him permanently. Reese destroyed her knee last year and hasn't passed a physical readiness test since. He saved Maya for last. And Chen, little mystery Chen, who won't tell us where she came from or what she's really doing here. He smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Welcome to the graveyard, soldiers. This is where military careers come to die. You have approximately 2 weeks before the first round of eliminations. I suggest you use that time to start working on your civilian resumes." He turned and walked away, leaving them standing there in front of 42 candidates who were already looking at them with a mixture of pity and relief. Pity for what they were about to endure. Relief that they weren't in Shadow Squad themselves. "Well," Thompson said after a long moment of silence, "that's one hell of a welcome speech." Morrison hadn't stopped trembling. His eyes were fixed on some point in the middle distance, seeing something that wasn't there. "Hey." Maya touched his arm gently. "Morrison. Eric. Look at me." He flinched at the contact but slowly turned his gaze toward her. "Breathe," she said quietly. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out. "Can you do that for me?" He stared at her. Then slowly he began to breathe. In. Hold. Out. "That's it. Keep going. You're okay. You're here. You're safe." Thompson was watching this interaction with surprise. "Where'd you learn that?" "Somewhere." Maya didn't elaborate. "She learned it in the same place she learned everything else," a voice said behind them. "The place that doesn't exist." They turned. A man was standing a few feet away, older than them, maybe 50, with the weathered face of someone who had spent decades in hard places. "Sergeant Major Wilson," he introduced himself. "I'm your squad supervisor, meaning I get to babysit the rejects while Drake plays with his favorites." "With respect, Sergeant Major," Gutierrez said, "we're not rejects, we're here to train." Wilson laughed. "Kid, I've supervised Shadow Squad for 6 cycles. You want to know how many graduates we've produced in that time? 0. None. Every single candidate assigned to this squad has either washed out, been medically discharged, or quit." He looked at each of them in turn. Drake doesn't assign people to Shadow Squad to train them. He assigns them here to fail. It's cleaner that way. Lets him say he gave everyone a chance without actually having to invest any resources. "Then why do it?" Reese asked. Her voice was tight with pain. Her knee was clearly bothering her. "Politics. Optics. The brass wants to see diversity and second chances in the program. Drake gives them the appearance of both while making sure neither actually succeeds." Wilson shrugged. "It's the military. Get used to it." Maya had been listening in silence. Now she spoke. "Sergeant Major, what's the earliest we can access the training facilities?" Wilson looked at her with something like curiosity. "Training facilities open at 0500, but unofficial access can be arranged earlier if you know who to ask." "Who do I ask?" "You're asking now." He studied her for a long moment. "What exactly are you planning, Private Chen?" "I'm planning to train Sergeant Major. That's why I'm here." "Drake will crush you. He crushes everyone in Shadow Squad. It's what he does." Maya met his eyes. "With respect, Sergeant Major, he can try." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay on her bunk in the squad barracks, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of her squad mates struggling with their own demons. Morrison whimpered in his sleep. Nightmare. She recognized the sounds, the rapid breathing, the small moans of terror. Thompson tossed and turned, muttering words she couldn't quite make out. Gutierrez slept with a knife under his pillow. Old habits. Street survival instincts that military training hadn't erased. Reese had fallen asleep with ice packs strapped to her knee. The pain must have been constant. These were the rejects, the broken ones, the soldiers that the system had decided weren't worth saving. Maya had known soldiers like this before, in the program that didn't exist, in the operations that never happened. She had seen what happened when people with potential were written off too early. Some of them died, lost to their demons, casualties of a war that was never acknowledged. But some of them, the ones who found someone to believe in them, had become the most formidable operators she had ever known. Damage could be strength. Trauma could be fuel. The darkness that lived inside broken people could be channeled into something extraordinary. You just had to show them how. Maya made a decision. She would train Shadow Squad. Not the way Drake trained his favorites, through intimidation and fear and the constant threat of elimination. She would train them the way she had been trained. The way the program that didn't exist had created operators who could function in environments that would break normal soldiers. It would mean working outside the official curriculum. It would mean risking discovery. It would mean putting herself directly in Drake's crosshairs, even more than she already was. But she had made a promise to herself when she left that life behind. Never again would she watch someone with potential be destroyed because no one cared enough to help them. Never again. The next morning came too quickly. 03:45 hours. Maya was already awake, had been awake for an hour, running through the breathing exercises that kept her mind clear and her body ready. She moved silently through the barracks, gathering her gear without waking the others. The training area was dark and empty when she arrived. Wilson had been true to his word. The main gate guard had waved her through without questions. She started with the basics. Movement drills. The foundational techniques that everything else was built upon. Not the techniques they taught in standard military training. The techniques from before. Her body remembered even when her mind tried to forget. The way to move without sound. The way to control breathing until the body became invisible to thermal detection. The way to calculate angles and distances without conscious thought. Ghost skills. Killer skills. She had spent 23 months trying to leave that behind. But you couldn't unlearn what had been written into your bones. You move like water. Maya spun her body, dropping into a defensive stance before her conscious mind had processed the words. Thompson stood at the edge of the training area. He had approached without her hearing him, which was notable. Very few people could do that. Couldn't sleep, he explained. Saw you leave. Figured I'd see what the mysterious Private Chen does when nobody's watching. Maya straightened slowly. And what do you see? I see someone who's been trained by people who know what they're doing. Real people. Not the drill sergeant playbook Drake runs. He stepped closer. What are you, Chen's Special Forces Agency? Something else. I'm a private in the United States military. Bullshit. But he said it without heat. Look, I'm not here to blow up your spot. I'm here because... He hesitated. Because Drake's right about me. I do have attitude problems. I've been kicked out of programs I should have graduated from because I can't seem to keep my mouth shut when I see injustice. What kind of injustice? The kind where black soldiers get passed over for promotion while white soldiers with worse records get advanced. The kind where complaints about racism get buried and complainers get transferred. The kind where... He stopped himself. It doesn't matter. Point is, I know what it's like to be targeted. And I know what it looks like when someone is being set up to fail. Maya studied him. What do you want, Thompson? I want to know what you're doing out here at 0400 in the morning. And I want to know if it's something that could help us survive this program. She considered her options. She could send him away, keep her secrets, continue working alone. But she had already decided to train Shadow Squad. And training required trust. Come here, she said finally. I'm going to show you something. And then you're going to tell me if you want to learn more. Thompson moved closer, his expression wary, but curious. Maya dropped into a stance he didn't recognize. Low center of gravity. hands positioned in a way that suggested readiness without aggression. "Hit me," she said. "What? Hit me. Anywhere you want. As hard as you want." Thompson laughed. "Chen, I'm twice your size. I could try." Something in her voice made him stop laughing. He threw a punch, a good one, trained and powerful, aimed at her center mass. Maya moved. To Thompson, it looked like she simply wasn't there anymore. One moment she was in front of him, the next moment his arm was extended into empty air, and something had swept his feet from under him. He hit the ground hard, the breath driven from his lungs. When he could see again, Maya was standing over him with one hand extended to help him up. "What the hell was that?" he gasped. "That was the beginning," she said. "If you want, I can teach you the rest." Thompson stared at her for a long moment. Then he took her hand. "Yeah," he said as she pulled him to his feet. "Yeah, I want to learn." By 05:30, the entire squad was assembled. Maya had sent Thompson to wake the others. They had come reluctantly, Morrison still half-trapped in his nightmares, Gutierrez suspicious and defensive, Reese limping badly, but refusing to acknowledge the pain. They stood before her in the pre-dawn darkness. 4 broken soldiers looking at a small woman who had somehow taken down a man twice her size. "I'm going to say this once," Maya began. "Master Chief Drake has decided that we're going to fail. He's put us together because he thinks we're weak, damaged, not worth saving." She paused, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "He's wrong." Morrison spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know what I've seen, what I've done. There's something broken inside me that can't be fixed." "There's something broken inside all of us," Maya said quietly. "That's not weakness, Morrison. That's the price of being human in inhuman situations." "Pretty words," Gutierrez said. "But words don't change facts. I've got a record. Half the people in this program look at me like I'm about to steal something. Drake calls me the criminal when he thinks I can't hear." "And what did you do to earn that record?" Gutierrez's jaw tightened. "I grew up in a neighborhood where joining a gang wasn't a choice. It was survival. I did things I'm not proud of. But I got out. I joined the military to get out to be something different. And it follows me everywhere." "It follows you because you let it," Maya said. "You wear that history like armor. But armor can also be a cage." She turned to Reese. "Tell me about your knee." "ACL tear, 8 months ago. Surgery didn't take the way it should have." Reese's voice was flat, controlled, but Maya could hear the pain beneath it. "Every doctor says I should be discharged. I keep passing minimum physical requirements by margins so thin they're probably rounding errors. And you're here instead of accepting the discharge because if I get discharged, I have nothing." For the first time, emotion cracked through Reese's professional exterior. "No career, no purpose, nothing. This is all I have." Maya nodded. She understood that. She understood it intimately. Finally, she looked at Thompson. "You already told me your story. Anything you want to add?" "Just that I'm tired," he said. "Tired of fighting a system that's designed to keep people like me in boxes. Tired of watching talent get wasted because it comes in the wrong package." Maya was silent for a moment, processing everything she had heard. Then she spoke. "I'm going to tell you something about myself. Not everything. Some things I can't share, not ever, but enough so you understand why I'm doing this." She took a breath. "Before I came here, I was part of a program that trained people to do things that most soldiers never have to do. I can't tell you where it was or who ran it. I can't tell you what I did while I was there. But I can tell you this. I know what it means to be broken. I know what it means to carry darkness inside you that no one else can see." Morrison was watching her with something like recognition in his eyes. "And I know," she continued, "that broken people can become the strongest soldiers in any army. Because we've already survived things that would destroy normal people. We've already faced the worst that life has to offer. Which means the worst that Drake has to offer is nothing by comparison." She let that sink in. "I'm not going to promise you that we'll win. I'm not going to promise that Drake won't find a way to destroy us. But I'm going to promise you this: by the time he tries, we're going to be ready. and we're going to show everyone watching that the soldiers they gave up on were the ones they should have been fighting for all along. Silence. Then slowly Thompson nodded. I'm in. In for what exactly? Gutierrez asked. What's the plan? The plan is that I train you, Maya said. Every morning before official PT. Every night after regular training ends. I teach you things that aren't in any manual, things that will make you better soldiers than anyone in this program. And in return, Reese was practical, looking for the catch. In return, you train as hard as you've ever trained in your lives. You don't complain, you don't make excuses, and you don't give Drake the satisfaction of quitting. We stand together or we fall together. No exceptions. She extended her hand, palm down. Thompson placed his hand on top of hers without hesitation. After a moment, Gutierrez added his. Reese limped forward and added hers. They all looked at Morrison. He was trembling again, his eyes distant. I don't know if I can do this, he whispered. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You're not, Maya said gently. None of us are. That's why we need each other. Morrison looked at the hands stacked together. 4 people who had every reason to fail. 4 people who had been told they would fail. 4 people who were choosing to fight anyway. He stepped forward and added his hand to the stack. Shadow Squad, Maya said. They gave us this name to mark us as failures. Let's make it mean something else. Don't. Official training began at 0700. Maya had pushed Shadow Squad through 90 minutes of foundational work before the rest of the company assembled. Basic techniques, breathing, movement, the building blocks of what would come later. They were exhausted. She could see it in their faces, but they were also standing straighter, moving with more purpose. Something had shifted in them, a small flame that hadn't been there before. Drake noticed immediately. Well, he said, approaching Shadow Squad during the initial formation. Look at the rejects. Almost look like real soldiers this morning. He circled them slowly, looking for weakness to exploit. Morrison, you stopped crying in your sleep yet? Morrison flinched, but he didn't break eye contact. No, Master Chief. At least you're honest about being pathetic. Drake moved to Thompson. And the troublemaker. Let me guess, planning to file a complaint about something today. Thompson's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice even. No, Master Chief. Smart. Nobody listens to complaints from washouts anyway. He moved to Gutierrez. The criminal. Steal anything since yesterday. No, Master Chief. Give it time. He moved to Reese. The cripple. How's that knee going to collapse during PT and make me fill out the paperwork? Reese's face was pale with pain, but her voice was steady. My knee is serviceable, Master Chief. We'll see about that. Finally, he stopped in front of Maya. And little Chen. His voice dropped. My favorite mystery. You know what I did last night? I made some calls. Called in some favors. Tried to find someone who could tell me what's in your classified file. Maya said nothing. You know what I found out? Nothing. Because the people who know aren't talking, which tells me one of 2 things. He leaned closer. Either you're something special, or you're someone's mistake. Either way, I'm going to find out. Yes, Master Chief. That's not an answer. I know, Master Chief. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in Drake's eyes. Then he stepped back and addressed the entire company. Today's exercise squad combat navigation, 5-mile course through hostile terrain, live fire exercises, simulated casualties. Each squad will be evaluated on completion time and tactical effectiveness. He smiled. Shadow Squad will go first. Consider it a privilege. The other squads exchanged looks. Going first meant no opportunity to observe the course, no chance to learn from other squads' mistakes. It was a setup. Everyone knew it was a setup. Maya met Thompson's eyes. He gave her a small nod. Let them set us up. We'll show them what failures can do. The course was brutal. Drake had designed it to exploit every weakness Shadow Squad possessed. Long sprints to exhaust Reese's damaged knee. Confined spaces to trigger Morrison's claustrophobia. Authority challenges to provoke Thompson's temper. And every station had an observer ready to document every failure. Move, move, move! Maya called, pushing her squad through the first obstacle. Morrison was struggling. The confined tunnel was pressing against his trauma, making his breathing ragged. I can't, he gasped. I can't do this. I can't. Yes, you can. Maya dropped into the tunnel beside him. You're not there anymore. You're here, with me. Focus on my voice. There were screams. So many screams. I couldn't. Morrison. Eric. She gripped his arm firmly. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out. Do it with me. Now. They breathed together in the darkness. 1 cycle. 2. 3. Morrison's shaking began to subside. Good, Maya said. Now we move. 1 inch at a time. I'm right beside you. They crawled through the tunnel together. It took longer than it should have. The observers marked them down, but Morrison made it through. The live fire exercise was designed to make Thompson lose his temper. The observer, a sergeant named Paulson, who had a reputation for provoking confrontations, kept making comments. Subtle at first, then increasingly overt. Your squad's pretty slow, Thompson. Probably because of all the dead weight. Thompson's jaw tightened, but he kept moving. I mean, look at them. A head case, a criminal, a cripple, and whatever Chen is supposed to be. It's like the island of misfit toys out here. Maya saw Thompson's hands ball into fists, saw him start to turn toward Paulson. She stepped in smoothly, positioning herself between them. Private Thompson, she said calmly. I need you to check the flank, now. Thompson met her eyes. The anger was burning there, ready to explode. The mission, Maya said quietly. Remember the mission. A beat. 2, 3. Thompson forced himself to breathe. Then he nodded and moved to check the flank. Paulson looked disappointed. Reese collapsed at mile 4. Her knee simply gave out, sending her crashing to the ground with a cry of pain she couldn't suppress. Gutierrez was there immediately. I got you. Come on, we gotta keep moving. Leave me. Reese's voice was tight with agony. I'm slowing you down. Just leave me and finish the course. Not happening. Maya appeared beside them. Gutierrez, help me get her up. Chen Drake's watching. If we stop, then we stop together. Maya locked eyes with Reese. I told you this morning, we stand together or we fall together. That wasn't just words. They formed a support structure, Gutierrez on one side, Maya on the other, and half-carried Reese through the final mile. Their completion time was terrible. Dead last by a significant margin. The observers wrote it all down. Drake watched from the finish line with an expression that was impossible to read. That was the worst performance I have ever witnessed. The debriefing was brutal. Drake stood before them like a hanging judge. 47 minutes. The next slowest squad finished in 31. You failed every single tactical objective. You stopped mid-course to have what appears to have been a group therapy session. And you carried a disabled soldier instead of leaving her at the medical checkpoint like you were supposed to. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Give me one reason why I shouldn't eliminate all 5 of you right now. Maya stepped forward. Master Chief, permission to speak. Drake's eyes narrowed. Denied. Request permission to speak, Master Chief. I said denied, Private. With respect, Master Chief. Maya didn't back down. You asked a question. I'm trying to answer it. The other candidates held their breath. No one talked to Drake like this. No one. Drake moved closer. You want to answer my question? Fine. Answer it. Then pack your bags. Maya held his gaze. We failed today's tactical objectives. That's true. Our time was unacceptable. Also true. But we accomplished something that your evaluation doesn't measure. And what's that? We proved that we're a team. Drake stared at her. A team. Morrison faced his trauma in that tunnel. He didn't quit, and we didn't leave him behind. Thompson got provoked by Sergeant Paulson, deliberately provoked, and he controlled his temper. Gutierrez and I carried Reese instead of abandoning her because Shadow Squad doesn't leave anyone behind. She took a breath. You want soldiers who can run fast and shoot straight. I understand that. But I've seen soldiers who could do both get killed in the field because they fell apart when things got hard, because they didn't trust their teammates, because when the bullets were real and the stakes were life and death, they were still individuals instead of a unit. Drake was silent. We're not there yet, Maya continued. We're slow and we're damaged and we have a long way to go, but we're becoming something that can't be measured by a stopwatch or scored on an evaluation form. And what exactly is that? A squad that will die for each other. Maya's voice dropped. Master Chief, you can eliminate us if you want. That's your right. But I'm asking you to give us one more week. Let us prove that there's more to being a soldier than hitting benchmarks. Drake looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the rest of Shadow Squad Morrison standing straighter than he had before Thompson, with his anger finally contained. Gutierrez and Reese still supporting each other. Something shifted in his expression, just for a moment. Then it was gone. 1 week, he said finally. You have 1 week to show me something worth seeing. If you fail again, you're done. All of you. He turned and walked away. Shadow Squad stood in stunned silence. Then Thompson let out a breath. Did that just happen? It happened, Gutierrez said. I don't believe it, but it happened. Morrison was looking at Maya with something like wonder. How did you know that would work? Maya didn't answer immediately. She was watching Drake's retreating form, thinking about what she had seen in his eyes in that brief moment when his mask had slipped. Not satisfaction, not contempt. Something else. Something that looked almost like recognition. It worked, she said finally, because he's not what he pretends to be. There's something else going on with Master Chief Drake. Something he doesn't want anyone to see. What do you mean? Reese asked. Maya shook her head slowly. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. That night, the dreams came. Maya stood in a room that existed only in her memories. White walls, sterile. The air smelled of antiseptic and something else, something that might have been fear. She was 17 years old. The instructor stood before her with a photograph. This is your target, 37 years old, father of 2. He will be at these coordinates in approximately 43 hours. Maya looked at the photograph. The face was unremarkable. The eyes were tired. What did he do? That's not your concern. Your concern is the mission. If I'm going to kill someone, I want to know why. The instructor's expression didn't change. You're going to kill him because your country needs him dead. That's all the why you need. Maya took the photograph. Her hands were steady. When I complete this mission, she said, that will be 23. 23 people I've killed for my country. Correct. How many more before I'm done? The instructor smiled. It was not a kind smile. Private Chen, there is no done. There's only next. Maya woke with a gasp. Her heart was racing. Her hands were shaking. The barracks were dark around her, filled with the sounds of her sleeping squad mates. 23. She had killed 23 people by her 20th birthday. 23 strangers whose faces she still saw when she closed her eyes. She had left that world behind. Walked away when they told her walking away wasn't possible. Found her way to conventional military service because she needed something different. Something where the lines were clearer. Where she could build instead of destroy. But you couldn't unlearn what had been written into your bones. You couldn't forget the things you had done. Maya got up from her bunk and moved silently to the window. The moon was full over Coronado, painting everything in silver light. Somewhere out there, Drake was probably awake too. Probably reviewing the day's evaluations. Probably planning new ways to break them. But Maya had seen something in his eyes. A flicker of recognition. A moment where his mask had slipped. He knew something. Suspected something. Maybe about her. Maybe about something else entirely. She needed to find out what, because in her experience, the things people tried hardest to hide were usually the things that mattered most, and Master Chief Vincent Drake was hiding something. She was sure of it. The week that followed was the hardest of Maya's conventional military career. Drake had given them a reprieve, but he had also intensified his attention. Every training exercise was designed to expose their weaknesses. Every evaluation was weighted against them. And yet, something was changing. Morrison's nightmares hadn't stopped, but he was learning to function despite them. The breathing techniques Maya had taught him were becoming automatic, a reset button he could press when the past threatened to overwhelm the present. Thompson's anger was still there, but it was becoming focused, controlled. He had stopped reacting to provocation and started channeling his rage into performance. Gutierrez had stopped expecting betrayal from his squad mates. For the first time since leaving the streets, he was learning to trust people who weren't bound by blood or gang loyalty. Reese was still in pain, would probably always be in pain, but she had stopped letting that pain define her limits. She had started adapting instead of surrendering. And Maya was remembering what it felt like to lead, not from the shadows, not through manipulation, but openly, honestly, by example. It was different from before, better. She hadn't realized how much she had missed this until she had it back. The second evaluation came on day 6. Same course, Drake announced. Same conditions. Let's see if Shadow Squad learned anything from their last humiliation. The other squads exchanged confident looks. Alpha Squad, Jackson's group, had completed the course in 23 minutes 2 days ago. They were the favorites to win the final competition. Shadow Squad would be dead last again. Everyone knew it. Everyone except Shadow Squad. "Remember what we talked about," Maya said as they assembled at the starting line. "Remember what we practiced." Morrison nodded. His hands weren't shaking. Thompson was calm-centered. Gutierrez had their 6 like it was instinct. Reese was strapped and braced and ready to fight through any pain. The whistle blew, and Shadow Squad ran down. They didn't finish first. That would have been a miracle, and Maya didn't believe in miracles. But they finished in 28 minutes. 5th out of 9 squads. More importantly, they completed every tactical objective. Morrison conquered the tunnel without stopping. Thompson didn't react to Paulson's provocations at all, just moved past him like he wasn't even there. Reese ran on her own power, her face a mask of controlled pain, but her legs never giving out. When they crossed the finish line, something remarkable happened. The other candidates applauded. Not loud, not enthusiastic, but genuine. The acknowledgement of something unexpectedly impressive. Drake's expression was unreadable. "Private Chen, my office, now." The order came that evening. Maya followed a corporal to Drake's office with a sense of something impending. The office was sparse, military neat. No personal items visible. Drake sat behind his desk watching her with those cold blue eyes. "Close the door." Maya closed it. "Sit." She sat. Silence stretched between them for nearly a minute. Drake seemed to be wrestling with something internal, some decision he hadn't fully committed to. Finally, he spoke. "I know what you are." Maya's expression didn't change. "What am I, Master Chief? You're an operator, real deal, not special forces, something else, something blacker." He leaned forward. "I called in every favor I had, talked to people who owe me their lives, and I finally got someone drunk enough or grateful enough to give me a name." Maya waited. "Project Whisper." She said nothing. Her heartbeat remained steady through sheer force of will. "I thought it was a myth," Drake continued. "A ghost story instructors told each other about programs that didn't exist, training operations that never happened. But you're real, aren't you? You're one of them." "Master Chief, I don't know what you're—" "Don't." His voice was sharp. "Don't lie to me. Not now. Not after what I've seen." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the darkened base. 23 confirmed kills before your 20th birthday. That's what my contact said. 23 people erased by a teenage girl who was trained to be invisible. Maya remained silent. "You want to know something funny?" Drake turned back to face her. "I've killed 41 people in 26 years of combat operations. I'm considered one of the most dangerous men in special operations, and a 21-year-old woman has a body count that's more than half of mine." He sat back down heavily. "So my question is, why are you here? Why is someone like you going through basic JTAC training with a bunch of recruits? Why aren't you out there doing whatever it is they had you doing before?" Maya considered her response carefully. "Because I didn't want to do it anymore," she said finally. "Because I spent 3 years being a weapon, and I wanted to be something else, something that builds instead of destroys. So you came here. So I came here." Drake was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a bitter sound. You know what's ironic? I've spent 26 years breaking recruits because I believed that's what made them stronger. I believed that finding their weaknesses and exploiting them was the key to creating soldiers who could survive combat. He met her eyes. Then I watch you take the 5 worst candidates in this program and turn them into a functioning squad in less than a week. Not by breaking them, by whatever the hell you're doing. Building them up, finding their strengths, making them believe in themselves. They were never weak, Master Chief. They were just broken in places that needed healing, not more breaking. That's not how I was taught. Maybe what you were taught was wrong. The words hung in the air between them. Drake looked at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression, not softening exactly, but something adjacent to it. Tell me something, Chen, and I want the truth. Yes, Master Chief. Can you actually do it? Can you take Shadow Squad and turn them into real soldiers? Not washouts, not charity cases. Real effective military personnel. Maya held his gaze. Yes. How? By showing them what I was shown. That strength isn't about not being broken. It's about getting back up after you break, over and over again, until breaking becomes just another part of the process. Drake was silent for a long time, then he nodded slowly. 1 week. You asked for 1 week. Your week's not up yet. He straightened some papers on his desk. I want to see what happens when Shadow Squad faces Alpha Squad in the final competition. I want to see if your methods actually work against my methods. Maya stood. Is that all, Master Chief? No. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Stay out of my way, Chen. Do what you do with your squad. But understand this, if I find out you're anything other than what you claim, if Project Whisper has some agenda here that I'm not seeing, I will destroy you. No matter how many people you've killed, no matter what skills you have. Clear. Crystal clear, Master Chief. Dismissed. Maya walked to the door. She was almost there when Drake's voice stopped her. Chen. She turned. Those 23 people you killed. His voice was different now. Quieter. Almost human. Do you remember their faces? Maya was silent for a long moment. Every single one, she said finally. Every single night. She walked out before he could respond. The conversation with Drake changed everything and nothing. Maya walked back to the barracks with his words echoing in her skull. He knew. Not everything, no one knew everything except the people who had created her, but enough. Enough to be dangerous. Enough to destroy her if he chose to. But he hadn't destroyed her. Not yet. Instead, he had asked a question that she was still trying to answer. Can you actually do it? She pushed through the barracks door. Shadow Squad was waiting. What happened? Thompson was on his feet immediately. What did he want? Nothing important. Chen, you were in there for 40 minutes. That's not nothing. Maya looked at her squad. 4 faces watching her with varying degrees of concern. 4 people who had started trusting her with their futures. She made a decision. He knows about me, she said quietly. Not everything, but enough. Morrison's face went pale. Knows what does that mean? It means I'm not exactly who I said I was. It means I have a past that I can't talk about. And it means that Drake is going to be watching me very carefully from now on. Gutierrez crossed his arms. So what? We already knew you were different. You think we didn't notice that you move like a ghost and know things you shouldn't know. This is different. If Drake decides I'm a threat, then we deal with it. Thompson's voice was hard. You're our squad leader. Whatever you did before, whoever you were, that's not who you are now. You're Shadow Squad, and Shadow Squad doesn't abandon its own. Maya looked at them. These broken soldiers who had found something worth fighting for. Okay, she said finally. Then we train harder, starting now. Morrison groaned. It's 2200 hours. We have PT at 0500. Then you'd better learn to function on less sleep. Welcome to my world." She led them out into the darkness. The next 3 hours were brutal. Maya pushed them through exercises they had never seen before. Movement drills that required perfect coordination. Communication protocols that had to become instinct. Stress management techniques that turned fear into fuel. "Again," she said after Thompson failed a coordination drill for the 3rd time. "Chen, my legs are shaking. I can't." "You can. Your body is telling you lies. It's trying to protect you from discomfort. But discomfort is where growth happens. Again." Thompson gritted his teeth and tried again. Failed again. "What am I doing wrong?" Maya moved to stand beside him. "You're thinking too much. You're trying to control every movement consciously, but in combat, conscious thought is too slow. You need to train your body to move without your brain getting in the way." "How?" "Repetition, thousands of repetitions, until the movement becomes as natural as breathing." She demonstrated the drill, her body flowing through the sequence with liquid precision. "Like this. Don't think, just move." Thompson tried again. This time something clicked. His body found the rhythm. "There," Maya said. "Feel that. That's muscle memory taking over. That's what we're building." By over 100 hours, they were exhausted beyond exhaustion. But they had learned more in 3 hours than they had learned in 3 days of official training. "Same time tomorrow," Maya said as they stumbled back toward the barracks. "And the night after that, and every night until the competition." "You're trying to kill us," Reese muttered. "No, I'm trying to keep you alive. There's a difference." The next morning came too quickly. Official PT began at 0500 and Shadow Squad was already running on fumes. Drake noticed immediately. "Shadow Squad, you all look like you spent the night doing something other than sleeping. Care to explain?" "No, Master Chief," Maya responded. "That wasn't really a question, Private Chen." He stepped closer. "What were you doing last night?" "Training, Master Chief." "Training?" His eyes narrowed. "Without authorization, without supervision. In direct violation of the schedule I established for this program. The schedule doesn't prohibit additional voluntary training." "Master Chief, I checked." Drake's jaw tightened. "You checked?" "Yes, Master Chief." For a long moment, Maya thought he was going to explode. The other candidates were watching, holding their breath, waiting for the hammer to fall. But Drake just smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Fine, Private Chen. You want to train your little squad of failures on your own time. Go ahead. But understand this, when you fail, and you will fail, I'm going to make sure everyone knows it was because you thought you were smarter than the system." He turned away. "Double time formation runs, now, and Shadow Squad leads." The punishment was designed to break them. 5 miles at double time pace with full packs in the growing heat of another California morning. Maya had expected this. She had prepared for it. "Pace yourselves," she said quietly as they ran. "Breathe in rhythm. 4 steps in, 4 steps out. Don't waste energy on anything that isn't forward motion." Around her, Shadow Squad fell into the rhythm she had taught them. Not fast, but sustainable. Efficient. By mile 3, other squads were struggling. Candidates were falling out, clutching their sides, gasping for air. Shadow Squad kept running. By mile 4, even Alpha Squad was showing signs of fatigue. Jackson's perfect form had deteriorated into a stumbling jog. Shadow Squad kept running. They didn't finish first. That would have been too obvious, too provocative. But they finished together as a unit with energy to spare. Drake's expression when they crossed the finish line was worth every hour of lost sleep. The harassment intensified after that. Drake seemed to take Shadow Squad's resilience as a personal insult. He found new ways to target them, new punishments, new humiliations. "Chen, your rifle positioning is unacceptable." It wasn't. "Morrison, stop that pathetic shaking." He couldn't. "Thompson, did I give you permission to breathe that loudly?" He hadn't. "Gutierrez, I can see gang signs in the way you're standing." There weren't any. "Reese, that limp is getting worse. Maybe you should just give up now and save us all the trouble." She didn't. The other candidates watched these confrontations with growing unease. Some of them had started whispering. "It's not right," Maya overheard one candidate say to another during a meal break. Drake's targeting them specifically. That's not training, that's persecution. Keep your voice down. You want to be next. I'm just saying, don't say anything, just keep your head down and get through. Maya filed away this information. The seeds of doubt were being planted. Not everyone agreed with Drake's methods. That might matter later. The night training continued. Every night 2200 to 100, Maya pushed Shadow Squad through exercises that had no official name and existed in no manual. This is called the mirror drill, she explained on night 4. You face your partner. They move, you mirror them exactly. No delay, no hesitation. You become their reflection. What's the point? Gutierrez asked. The point is learning to read body language. In combat, your enemy's body tells you what they're going to do before they do it. The shoulder drops before the punch. The weight shifts before the kick. The eyes move before the shot. Learn to read these signals, and you'll know what's coming before it arrives. They practiced. Poorly at first, then less poorly. You're getting it, Maya said after an hour. But you're still thinking. Stop thinking. Easy for you to say, Morrison muttered. Your brain seems to have an off switch. It does. I can teach you where it is. That sounds vaguely threatening. It's not. It's just training. Everything is training. On night 6, something changed. Maya was running the squad through a new drill, stress inoculation she called it, when she noticed movement at the edge of the training area. She held up a fist. Shadow Squad froze instantly. Contact, northwest, single individual, observing. Thompson squinted into the darkness. I don't see anything. You're not supposed to. That's the point. Maya kept her voice low. Continue the drill. Act natural. I'll handle this. She moved away from the group, angling toward the observer's position with the casual stride of someone taking a break. Then she disappeared. One moment she was walking. The next, she had simply ceased to be visible. Thompson blinked. Did she just... Shut up, Gutierrez hissed. Keep drilling. Maya reappeared 30 seconds later. She was not alone. Sergeant Major Wilson walked beside her, his expression somewhere between impressed and concerned. Evening, Shadow Squad, he said. Sergeant Major. Thompson snapped to attention. At ease. I'm not here officially. Wilson looked at Maya. Private Chen very politely asked me to join you. I think she was demonstrating that she knew I was watching. I knew you were watching the first night, Maya said calmly, and the second, and every night since. Wilson's eyebrows rose. How? You wear cologne, Old Spice. The Pacific breeze carries it. She shrugged. Also, you smoke. I could smell the tobacco on your clothes from 40 meters. I quit smoking 3 months ago. The smell stays in fabric for up to 6 months. You might want to get new shirts. Wilson stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. You're something else, Chen. You know that. I know what I am. And what's that? Maya didn't answer directly. Why are you watching us, Sergeant Major? What are you reporting to Drake? Who says I'm reporting to Drake? You supervise Shadow Squad. He'd want updates. It's logical. Wilson was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. Yeah, I've been giving him updates, but not the kind you're thinking. He looked at the rest of Shadow Squad. I've been telling him that something's happening here. Something I've never seen before in 30 years of military service. What's that? You're actually succeeding. Against all odds, against all logic, you're turning these washouts into something that looks like a real squad. He shook his head slowly. I've supervised Shadow Squad for 6 cycles. 6 cycles of watching talented people get ground down and spit out. And for the first time, I'm watching the opposite happen. What did Drake say when you told him that? He didn't believe me. He thinks you're running some kind of con. Wilson met Maya's eyes. But I don't think you are. I think you're exactly what you appear to be, someone who knows how to build soldiers instead of break them. Maya considered this. What do you want, Sergeant Major? I want to help, if you'll let me. Why? Wilson's face darkened. Because I've spent 6 cycles watching good people fail. Because I'm tired of being complicit in a system that destroys potential instead of developing it. Because... He stopped, his voice catching. Because my son was Shadow Squad. 8 years ago. Different base, different program, but the same setup. They broke him. He never recovered. The air seemed to thicken with the weight of his words. What happened to him? Maya asked quietly. He's alive, if you can call it that. Works at a grocery store in San Diego. Barely talks to anyone. The man I knew, the soldier he should have been, he's gone. Destroyed by people who were supposed to develop him. Wilson straightened. So, I'm asking you, Private Chen. Let me help. Let me make up for what I couldn't do for my son. Maya looked at Shadow Squad. They were watching the exchange with expressions of stunned understanding. What do you think? She asked them. Thompson spoke first. He's taking a risk by even being here. That counts for something. Morrison nodded. And we could use someone on the inside. Someone who knows how Drake thinks. Gutierrez was more cautious. How do we know this isn't a setup? How do we know Drake didn't send him to spy on us? He didn't, Maya said. His tells are clean. He's genuinely emotional about his son. You can't fake that kind of pain. You can read people that well? Wilson asked. I can read anyone that well. It's what I was trained to do. Wilson absorbed this. So what's the verdict? Maya extended her hand. Welcome to Shadow Squad, Sergeant Major. He shook it. Call me Wilson, at least when Drake isn't watching. Wilson, Maya nodded. Now tell me everything you know about Drake. His weaknesses, his patterns, his secrets. That's a long conversation. We have time. They talked until nearly 300 hours. What Wilson revealed was illuminating. Drake had a history that went back decades. 37 combat operations. Hundreds of confirmed kills. Awards and commendations that would fill a wall. But there were also shadows. He lost a team, Wilson said. 8 years ago. Operation in Afghanistan. Details are classified, but the rumors say it was bad. Like, everyone died except Drake. Bad. Maya filed this away. And since then, he's been like this. Harder, meaner, more focused on breaking people down. Wilson shook his head. Before that operation, I'm told he was different. Tough, sure, but fair. He actually believed in developing soldiers. Then something happened and that guy disappeared. Survivor's guilt, Maya said quietly. He couldn't save his team, so now he punishes himself by punishing everyone else. That's a hell of an insight. I've seen it before, in people who carry too much death on their shoulders. Wilson looked at her curiously. Speaking from personal experience, Maya didn't answer. Some truths weren't ready to be shared. Get some sleep, she told Shadow Squad. What little you can. Tomorrow's going to be harder than today. How do you know? Reese asked. Because it always is. Maya was right. The next morning brought a new challenge. Drake had scheduled what he called a stress assessment, simulated combat scenarios designed to test psychological resilience under pressure. Shadow Squad will demonstrate, Drake announced. Let's see how well they handle a little pressure. The scenario was designed to trigger every weakness they had. Morrison was placed in a confined space with simulated enemy fire. The sounds, the pressure, the claustrophobic darkness, all of it calculated to activate his trauma. Thompson was partnered with Sergeant Paulson for a hand-to-hand combat evaluation. The provocation started immediately. Gutierrez was given a leadership role in a scenario that required trusting teammates he didn't know, other candidates who had been briefed to subtly undermine him. Reese was forced to run a timed obstacle course that stressed her damaged knee to its limits. And Maya was placed in an impossible situation. Chen, your scenario is simple, Drake said with a cold smile. You're captured. Your squad is being held hostage. The enemy commander is giving you a choice: betray your squad or watch them die. That's not a real scenario, Master Chief. No actual enemy would. This is my assessment, Private. You follow my rules. He leaned closer. Choose. The simulation began. Maya was restrained in a chair. Actors playing enemy soldiers stood around her. On screens, she could see her squad mates being threatened in their individual scenarios. The actor playing the enemy commander approached. "Private Chen, lovely to meet you. I understand you're special, very special. My superiors would pay a lot for someone with your skills." Maya remained silent. The strong, silent type. I appreciate that. But here's the thing, I have your friends. And I'm going to hurt them unless you give me what I want. What do you want? Information. Specifically, everything you know about your training program. Strengths, weaknesses, schedules, access codes. I don't have access codes, I'm a private. But you have other things. Knowledge, skills, things my superiors would find very valuable. He gestured to the screens. So here's my offer. You cooperate, and your friends live. You stay silent, and... He snapped his fingers. On the screens, the threats to her squad mates intensified. Morrison's confined space began filling with smoke. Thompson's opponent became more aggressive. Gutierrez's scenario started falling apart. Well, what's your choice? Maya looked at the screens, looked at her squad mates struggling, looked at the actor playing the enemy commander. Then she smiled. You want to know what I know? Fine, I'll tell you. The actor leaned closer, triumph in his expression. Maya moved. Even restrained, she was devastating. Her body twisted in ways that shouldn't have been possible, slipping the restraints through techniques that had no name in any official manual. She had the actor on the ground in less than 3 seconds, her forearm across his throat, her eyes cold and empty. What I know, she said softly, is that you're an actor, that this is a simulation, and that the correct response to an impossible choice is to change the parameters of the choice. She released him and stood turning to face Drake, who had been watching from outside the simulation area. Assessment complete, Master Chief. Drake's face was unreadable. You broke the scenario. The scenario was unrealistic. No real enemy would give a captured soldier that kind of time to think. No real threat to teammates would be visible to the prisoner. The whole setup was psychologically manipulative, designed to trigger guilt responses rather than test actual combat readiness. Are you criticizing my assessment design, Private? I'm pointing out its flaws, Master Chief, respectfully. The silence that followed was explosive. Then Drake did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a nice laugh, not a warm laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. You've got guts, Chen. I'll give you that. He gestured to the evaluators. End the other assessments. I've seen enough. The simulation stopped. Shadow Squad emerged looking shaken, but intact. Morrison had survived his confined space scenario. Barely. Thompson had restrained himself from killing Paulson. Barely. Gutierrez had held his leadership together despite the sabotage. Reese had completed the obstacle course, her knee screaming, her face white with pain, but she had finished. They had passed. Drake gathered the entire company for the announcement. Next week is the final competition. All squads will compete in a comprehensive assessment of tactical skills, physical readiness, and operational capability. The winning squad earns advanced training privileges and my personal recommendation for accelerated career paths. He paused, letting the stakes sink in. The losing squad will be reviewed for program elimination. The candidates exchanged nervous glances. The competition will be 5 events over 2 days: endurance, navigation, combat simulation, team coordination, and finally, precision marksmanship. Drake's eyes found Maya in the crowd. May the best squad win. That night, Shadow Squad gathered in their barracks. Wilson had arranged for extra rations and medical supplies, small gestures that made big differences. We can do this, Thompson said. We've been training harder than anyone else. We're ready. We're not ready, Maya said flatly. We're better than we were. But Alpha Squad has been preparing for this for months. They have every advantage. So what do? We use our disadvantages. Maya began pacing. Alpha Squad is strong, fast, well-coordinated. But they're also arrogant. They expect to win. That expectation is a weakness. How? Because they won't be ready when things go wrong. They've never had to overcome adversity because they've never faced any. We've faced nothing but adversity. That's our advantage. Morrison spoke up, his voice steadier than it had been a week ago. You really think we can beat them? Maya stopped pacing and looked at her squad. I think we can beat anyone, but only if we believe it first. She met each of their eyes in turn. Do you believe it? Thompson nodded slowly. Yeah, I believe it. Gutierrez squared his shoulders. Me too. Reese grimaced but nodded. What the hell? Let's show them what failures can do. Morrison was last. His hands were still trembling slightly, but his voice was clear. I believe it. Maya felt something shift in her chest, something that might have been hope. Then let's get to work. We have 7 days to prepare for the fight of our lives. They trained like there was no tomorrow, because for Shadow Squad there might not be. Day 1, endurance work. Maya pushed them until their bodies gave out, then taught them how to keep going anyway. Day 2, navigation. They learned to read terrain without maps to move through hostile territory like ghosts. Day 3, combat simulation. Maya showed them techniques that existed in no manual movements that seemed to violate physics. Day 4, team coordination. They practiced until they could communicate with glances, until they knew each other's positions without looking. Day 5, marksmanship. This was where Maya could not hide what she was. Show us how you shoot, Thompson said. Maya hesitated. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Why not? If you're going to teach us, we need to see what we're aiming for. The others nodded in agreement. Maya picked up a rifle. It felt like an old friend in her hands, familiar, comfortable, dangerous. Set up the long-distance targets, she said quietly. Wilson set them up. 500 yards. 700 yards. 1,000 yards. Maya breathed. Once. Twice. Then she fired. 3 shots. 3 targets. 3 perfect hits. The squad stared in stunned silence. How is that possible? Morrison whispered. That 1,000-yard shot, the wind was shifting, the light was bad. There's no way. There's always a way. Maya lowered the rifle. The bullet doesn't know what's impossible. It just follows physics. You learn the physics, you control the bullet. Can you teach us that? Maya looked at him. I can teach you the basics. The rest takes years. She paused. But the basics might be enough. Day 6, final preparations. Maya ran them through every scenario she could imagine. What if your rifle jams? She asked Gutierrez. Transition to sidearm. Create distance. Clear the jam if possible. What if your leg gives out? She asked Reese. Use the environment. Find cover. Continue the mission from a static position. What if the fear comes back? She asked Morrison. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I breathe. I remember where I am. I remember who I'm with, and I keep moving. Maya nodded. Good. You're ready. Are we? Thompson asked. Are we really? Maya looked at her squad. 5 damaged soldiers who had been written off. 5 people who had found something worth fighting for. Ask me again tomorrow night, after we've shown them what Shadow Squad can do. Day 7, the eve of the competition. Drake called a company meeting. His face was grimmer than usual. Tomorrow you prove what you're made of. Some of you will succeed. Some of you will fail. But everyone will learn something about themselves. He looked directly at Shadow Squad. Some of you will learn that you were right to believe in yourselves, and some of you will learn that belief isn't enough. After the meeting, Maya found herself alone on the edge of the base, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. Wilson found her there. You ready? He asked. As ready as I can be. You know Drake's going to be watching you specifically. Whatever happens tomorrow, he's going to be looking for proof that you're what he thinks you are. I know. And you're okay with that? Maya was quiet for a long moment. I'm okay with being seen, she said finally. I'm not okay with losing. And tomorrow, I don't intend to lose. Even if it means revealing everything. Maya looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. Sergeant Major, I've spent 3 years hiding what I am, pretending to be normal, hoping I could leave the past behind. She turned back to the ocean. But you can't run from who you are. You can only choose what to do with it. And what are you going to do with it? I'm going to use it. Every skill, every technique, everything they taught me in that place that doesn't exist. I'm going to use it to win. And after? Maya didn't answer. Some questions didn't have answers yet. Get some sleep, Wilson. Tomorrow, everything changes. She stayed there until the stars came out. Then she went back to the barracks where Shadow Squad was waiting, and she let herself believe just for a moment that broken things could become beautiful. That tomorrow might be the start of something new. That maybe, just maybe, she had finally found a place where she belonged. Competition day arrived like a verdict. Maya was awake before the sun. She had not slept. Her body did not require sleep the way normal bodies did. Years of training had taught her to function on fragments to draw energy from reserves that most people never accessed. She stood by the window watching darkness give way to gray. "You're thinking too loud," Thompson's voice came from across the room. He was sitting up in his bunk watching her. "How long have you been awake?" Maya asked. "Never went to sleep." He swung his legs over the side. "Kept running scenarios in my head. What could go wrong? What we need to do. And I realized something." He stood and walked toward her. "We're going to win today. Not because we're better than Alpha Squad, but because we have something they don't." "What's that? We have nothing to lose." Thompson's eyes met hers. "They're fighting to protect their position. We're fighting for our lives. That's a different kind of motivation." Maya nodded slowly. "Wake the others. It's time." The formation assembled at 0600 hours. 47 candidates stood in the pre-dawn chill breath fogging in the air, bodies tight with anticipation. 9 squads. 2 days of competition. Only one would emerge victorious. Drake stood before them, his face carved from stone. "This is it," he said. "Everything you've done, everything you've learned, everything you think you are, it all comes down to the next 48 hours. His eyes swept the formation. "Some of you are ready, most of you aren't. Let's find out which is which." He outlined the events. Day 1, endurance march, tactical navigation combat simulation. Day 2, team coordination and precision marksmanship. First event begins in 30 minutes. Gear up. Shadow Squad moved together, a unit that had been forged in darkness and desperation. "Remember what we trained," Maya said quietly. "Remember who you are, and remember they expect us to fail. Let's disappoint them." The endurance march was 8 miles with full combat loads. 80 pounds of gear per soldier. No breaks. No mercy. Alpha Squad took the lead immediately. Jackson set a punishing pace, his team falling in behind him like wolves in formation. Shadow Squad hung back, deliberate, strategic. "They're pulling ahead," Gutierrez said through gritted teeth. "Shouldn't we?" "No, let them burn energy. This isn't a sprint." Maya kept her pace steady. "The race isn't won at mile 1, it's won at mile 8. By mile 3, Alpha Squad's lead had grown substantial. Other squads were struggling to keep up, their formations beginning to fragment. Shadow Squad stayed together, tight, unified. Reese was hurting. Maya could see it in the set of her jaw, the slight hitch in her stride. But she was holding. "Talk to me," Maya said, falling into step beside her. "How bad?" "Bad enough." Reese's voice was tight. "But I'm not stopping." "I didn't ask if you were stopping. I asked how bad." "About a 7, maybe 8. Scale of 10. Scale of whether I can finish this march." Maya calculated. "You need to adjust your pack distribution. The weight is pulling on your left side. Here." She made a quick adjustment without breaking stride. The change was subtle but immediate. Reese's face shifted. "That's actually better." Small advantages. They add up. By mile 5, the picture had changed. Alpha Squad was still ahead, but their lead had stopped growing. Their pace had dropped as fatigue set in. Shadow Squad was accelerating. "Now," Maya said. "Now we push." They pushed. Morrison was gasping, his trauma threatening to surface with every step, but he kept moving. Thompson's face was a mask of determination. Gutierrez had found a rhythm that seemed almost mechanical. At mile 7, they passed Delta Squad. The other candidates stared as Shadow Squad went by the washouts, the rejects, the soldiers everyone had written off. At mile 7.5, they caught Alpha Squad. Jackson's head snapped around, disbelief written across his features. "What the—" "Morning, Jackson," Thompson said as they pulled alongside. "Nice day for a walk. You're supposed to be behind us. Supposed to be a lot of things. Turns out reality doesn't care what it's supposed to be." Shadow Squad pulled ahead. They crossed the finish line first. Not by much. Alpha Squad was only 30 seconds behind, but first. Drake's face was unreadable. "Shadow Squad," he announced. "First place, Endurance March." The words hung in the air like a challenge. The tactical navigation event was designed to separate the competent from the exceptional. Each squad was dropped at a different starting point, with a map, a compass, and a set of coordinates. The objective was simple: reach the extraction point within the time limit while avoiding enemy patrols, evaluators, hidden throughout the course, who would assess tactical movement. "We don't know this terrain," Gutierrez said as they studied their map. "Alpha Squad has been training here for months. They know every shortcut." "Then we don't take shortcuts." Maya traced a route with her finger. "We take the path no one would expect. Through here." Morrison's face went pale. "That's the confined section, the canyon. They'll expect us to avoid it because of my—" "They will expect that," Maya agreed. "Which is why we're going through it." She met his eyes. "You've been training for this, Morrison. You've faced your fear every night for 2 weeks. This is the test." "I don't know if I can—" "You can. I believe you can. The question is whether you believe it." Morrison stared at the map. His hands were shaking. Then he nodded. "Okay, let's do it." The canyon was everything Morrison feared. Narrow, dark, pressing in from all sides. His breathing started to accelerate the moment they entered. Maya could see the panic building, the trauma clawing at the edges of his control. "Morrison, look at me." He couldn't. His eyes were locked on the walls closing in. "Eric." She used his first name deliberately. "Look at me." Slowly, painfully, he turned his gaze toward her. "You're not there. You're here. With us. With your squad." She kept her voice calm, steady. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out. Do it with me. They breathed together. The squad waited, silent, protective. 1 cycle. 2. 3. Morrison's shaking began to subside. "I'm okay," he whispered. "I'm okay." "You're more than okay. You're a soldier, and soldiers keep moving." They moved. 20 minutes later, they emerged from the canyon, a route that had shaved 15 minutes off the expected time. No other squad had dared to take it. They reached the extraction point with 8 minutes to spare. Alpha Squad arrived 4 minutes after them, having taken the longer route. Second event, Shadow Squad, first place. Drake said nothing, but Maya saw something flicker in his eyes. Something that might have been doubt. The combat simulation was the most complex event of the day. Each squad was placed in a simulated village setting with multiple objectives: rescue a hostage, neutralize enemy combatants, and extract without casualties. The evaluation criteria were harsh. Points deducted for every second over the time limit. Points deducted for every casualty taken. Points deducted for collateral damage. Alpha Squad went first. They were efficient, professional, effective. Their time was good. Their casualty count was low. Their execution was textbook perfect. Jackson emerged with a satisfied smile. "Beat that," he said to no one in particular. "Shadow Squad went last." "Remember," Maya told them in the staging area, "this isn't about being perfect. It's about being adaptive. Things will go wrong. They always go wrong. What matters is how we respond." "What if I freeze?" Morrison asked quietly. "In there with the noise and the pressure." "Then we carry you until you can move again. That's what squads do." The simulation began. It went wrong almost immediately. The enemy placement was different from the briefing more hostiles' worst positions. Someone had made the scenario harder for Shadow Squad. Maya saw Drake standing outside the simulation area watching. She understood. "Adapt," she called to her squad. "New plan. Gutierrez Thompson, you're flanking left. Morrison Reese with me. We're going through the center." "That's suicide," Thompson protested. "No, it's unexpected. They set up for us to go around. They're not ready for us to go through." They went through. Maya moved like something inhuman. Her body flowed through the simulation space, neutralizing targets with a precision that made the evaluator's jaws drop. She wasn't just fast, she was anticipating reading the environment 3 steps ahead. Behind her, Morrison was struggling. The noise, the chaos, the pressure it was triggering, everything he had tried to bury. But he kept moving. "Hostage secured," Gutierrez called over comms. "Extraction route clear," Thompson added. "Then move. Now." They extracted with 2 minutes to spare. 0 casualties. Minimal collateral damage. The best time of any squad. When they emerged, Jackson's smile had disappeared. "That was... How did you..." He couldn't finish the sentence. Maya walked past him without responding. Some questions didn't need answers. Day 1 ended with Shadow Squad in first place overall. The compound was buzzing with whispered conversations. How had the washouts, the rejects, the soldiers, no one believed in, how had they beaten Alpha Squad? Drake called a meeting that evening. His face was harder than Maya had ever seen it. "Tomorrow is the final day," he said. 2 events remaining: team coordination and precision marksmanship. "Current standings are meaningless. Everything comes down to tomorrow." His eyes found Maya. Everything. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Again. She found herself on the edge of the base, looking out at the darkness when a voice spoke behind her. "You're making a fool of me." She turned. Drake stood there, his face half-shadowed. "Master Chief, don't play innocent." He moved closer. "I know what you're doing. I know what you are. And I know you're using skills that no private should have to make me look like an idiot in front of my command. With respect, Master Chief, I'm just competing. Same as everyone else. No, you're not the same as everyone else. You've never been the same as everyone else." His voice dropped. "I got more information today. Fragments. Pieces. Enough to understand that you're not just some random private with a classified file." Maya remained silent. "You're a weapon, Chen. A weapon that someone built and then lost control of. And now you're here in my program and I can't figure out why." "I told you why. I wanted something different." "Nobody walks away from what you were. Nobody." "I did." Drake stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression, something that looked almost like pain. "Tomorrow," he said finally, "we're going to find out what you really are, one way or another." He walked away, leaving Maya alone with the darkness. Day 2 dawned hot and merciless. The team coordination event was first. A complex tactical scenario requiring perfect synchronization between squad members. Shadow Squad executed flawlessly. 2 weeks of night training had turned them into something approaching a single organism. They anticipated each other's movements, covered each other's weaknesses, compensated for each other's limitations. Alpha Squad made 2 errors, small ones, but enough. When the scores were announced, Shadow Squad was ahead by points that meant everything came down to the final event. Precision marksmanship. The event was structured as a series of increasingly difficult shots. Close range, medium range, long range. Each squad member would shoot and scores would be combined. Alpha Squad had Rodriguez, a designated marksman who had never missed a shot in competition. Shadow Squad had Maya. The close-range phase went as expected. Both squads performed well. The scores were nearly identical. Medium range separated the field. Alpha Squad extended their lead slightly. Rodriguez was as good as advertised, but Maya was better. Her shots weren't just accurate, they were perfect. Dead center every time. The evaluators checked and rechecked their equipment, unable to believe what they were seeing. Going into the final phase, the scores were tied. Long range, 1,000 yards, one shot per shooter. This was where it would be decided. Alpha Squad's members took their shots. Good, solid performance. Rodriguez saved himself for last and delivered what everyone expected, a near-perfect shot that landed just inches from center. He stood with a satisfied smile. Beat that. Shadow Squad's members took their shots. Thompson was slightly off. Gutierrez compensated. Morrison surprised everyone. His shot was excellent. His training finally paying off. Reese missed badly. Her knee had betrayed her, the pain making her flinch at the critical moment. The scores were calculated. Shadow Squad was behind by a fraction. Everything came down to Maya's shot. She walked to the firing position, 1,000 yards, crosswind at 15 miles per hour, heat distortion from the sun-baked earth. An impossible shot under impossible conditions. Drake stepped forward. Hold. Maya stopped her rifle half raised. Drake walked toward her and the entire company fell silent. Private Chen, his voice carried across the range. Before you take this shot, I want everyone to understand something. He stopped directly in front of her, blocking her path to the firing position. I've spent my career building soldiers, breaking them down and rebuilding them, turning raw material into weapons. And in all that time, I've never seen anything like you. Master Chief, I'm not finished. His voice was ice. You come into my program with your classified file and your mystery past. You turn a squad of washouts into something that's beating my best people. And you do it all with this look in your eyes, like you know something the rest of us don't. He leaned closer. But here's what I know, Chen. I know that whatever you are, you don't belong here. You don't belong with real soldiers. You're something else. Something broken that someone tried to fix and failed. Maya's expression didn't change. Look at you. Drake's voice rose. 5'2", 100 pounds soaking wet. You think you can stand next to real warriors? You think you can compete with men who have bled for this country? Still, Maya said nothing. Say something. Drake's composure was cracking. 26 years of certainty crumbling before this small woman who wouldn't break. Defend yourself. Fight back. Do something. Maya looked at him with eyes that held depths he couldn't fathom. Are you finished, Master Chief? No! He was shouting now, his face red veins bulging. No, I'm not finished. I'm just getting started because you need to understand something, Chen. You need to understand that all your training, all your secrets, all your little tricks, they don't mean anything. Not here, not against me. He jabbed a finger at her chest. You're nothing. You hear me? You're a pretender. A fraud. A little girl playing soldier. Maya remained perfectly still. You weak bitch. The words exploded across the range. Every candidate, every evaluator, every observer froze. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Maya spoke. Her voice was quiet, calm, cold as the void between stars. Master Chief, I have held dying teammates in my arms. I have watched children bleed out because I couldn't reach them in time. I have made decisions that cost lives and saved lives and haunted me every night since. She stepped closer to him. I have pulled triggers that ended families. I have carried ghosts that will never let me sleep. I have been to places that would break your mind and done things that would shatter your soul. Her eyes locked with his. So with respect, Master Chief, step aside. She moved past him to the firing position. The world seemed to hold its breath. Maya settled into position. The rifle felt like an extension of her body, familiar, intimate, deadly. 1,000 yards, crosswind shifting, heat distortion making the target shimmer like a mirage. She didn't aim the way they taught. She aimed the way Project Whisper taught. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat dropped. The world narrowed to a single point, the target, the wind, the bullet waiting to fly. Time seemed to stop. She squeezed the trigger. Crack! The shot echoed across the range. For a moment, no one moved. Then the spotter called out, his voice cracking with disbelief. Center mass. Perfect hit. Dead center. The range erupted. Shadow Squad was screaming, embracing, crying. The impossible had happened. The washouts had won. But Maya didn't hear any of it. She was somewhere else. Syria. 2 years ago. The mission that had ended everything. The sounds of her squad's celebration faded, replaced by screaming. Children screaming. Her teammates screaming. The sound of gunfire and explosions and a world tearing itself apart. She had made a shot that day too. A perfect shot. But it hadn't been enough. Her team was dead. The children were dead. Everyone was dead except her. Her hands began to shake. Chen, Thompson's voice distant, concerned. Maya, are you okay? She couldn't answer. She was drowning in memories, suffocating under the weight of 23 dead souls. Her knees buckled. Thompson caught her before she hit the ground. Medic, we need a medic. No. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. No medic. I'm fine. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're shaking like a leaf. It's just memories. They come back sometimes. I can't stop them. Thompson held her, and she let him. For the first time in years, she let someone hold her, while the past tore through her present. Around them, the celebration continued. Shadow Squad had won. The competition was over. But Thompson understood something the others didn't. The competition wasn't what had broken Maya. It was what she had to become to win it. Drake watched from across the range. His face was unreadable. But something in his eyes had changed. Something that looked like understanding. The afternoon sun beat down on the assembly area. Shadow Squad stood in formation, winners against all odds. Drake approached them. His earlier rage had vanished, replaced by something more complex. Shadow Squad, he announced to the entire company. First place overall, competition champions. No applause. The other candidates were too stunned. Drake turned to Maya. Private Chen. A word. My office. Now. She followed him, leaving her squad behind. The walk was silent. The office was exactly as she remembered it, sparse, military, cold. Drake closed the door and stood with his back to her for a long moment. I made some calls during the competition, he said finally. Pulled every string I had left. Called in debts that people thought I'd forgotten. He turned around. I got a name. Admiral Patterson. Director of something that officially doesn't exist. Maya's blood went cold. He told me things, Chen. Things that should be impossible. Things that explain everything and nothing at the same time. Drake moved to his desk and sat heavily. 23 confirmed kills before your 20th birthday. 6 countries. Operations that were never recorded because they never officially happened. He looked at her with something approaching awe. You're not a soldier, Chen. You're a ghost. A weapon that someone made and then lost control of. I walked away. Patterson said you couldn't walk away. He said no one leaves Project Whisper. Ever. I did. How? Maya was silent for a long moment. I was on a mission in Syria. My team, 6 operators, people I had trained with, lived with, fought with for 2 years. We were extracting a target. High value. Time sensitive. Her voice flattened, becoming almost mechanical. We got ambushed. Not by enemy combatants. By our own people. Someone decided the target knew too much. Someone decided we knew too much. The whole thing was a setup. They tried to kill you. They did kill me. The person I was died in that village with the rest of my team. Maya met his eyes. What came back was something else. Someone who knew too much about what they had done. Someone they couldn't touch because I had insurance files, evidence, things that would destroy careers and end lives if they ever came to light. Drake absorbed this. So you made a deal. I made a deal. I disappear into the conventional military life, a normal life. Never talk about what I was or what I did. In exchange, they leave me alone. They pretend I don't exist, and I pretend they don't exist. And you came here. I came here because I needed to find out if I could be something other than a killer. If there was anything left of me worth saving. The silence stretched between them. You called me weak, Maya said quietly. You called me a bitch. You said I didn't belong with real soldiers. Drake flinched. But here's what you don't understand, Master Chief. Weakness isn't about size or strength or how many people you've killed. Weakness is about giving up, letting the darkness win, becoming the thing that hurt you. She stood straighter. I'm not weak. I've never been weak. I've just learned that there are different kinds of strength. The kind that tears people down, and the kind that builds them up. Drake looked at her for a long time. Then he did something she never expected. He apologized. I was wrong, Chen. Wrong about you. Wrong about Shadow Squad. Wrong about a lot of things. Why are you telling me this? Because I've spent 26 years believing that breaking people was the only way to make them strong. That fear and pain were the best teachers. That anyone who couldn't survive my methods didn't deserve to be a soldier. He stood and walked to the window. But watching you with Shadow Squad, watching you take the people I'd written off and turn them into winners, it made me realize something. Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's always been another way, and I was just too stubborn to see it. Maya didn't know what to say. You don't have to forgive me, Drake continued. What I said to you on that range, those words can't be unsaid. But I want you to know that I see you now. I see what you really are. And it's not weak. He turned to face her. You're the strongest soldier I've ever met, and I almost destroyed you because I couldn't see past my own prejudice. The words hung in the air. Maya felt something shift inside her, something that had been locked away for years. I don't need your forgiveness, she said finally. And I don't need your validation. What I need is for you to change, not for me. For all the soldiers who come after me. The ones who are different. The ones who don't fit. The ones who have potential that no one else can see. Drake nodded slowly. I can do that. I will do that. He extended his hand. Maya looked at it. This hand that had pointed at her in accusation. This hand that belonged to a man who had tried to destroy her. She took it. Shadow Squad won today, she said. But this isn't about winning. It's about proving that the soldiers everyone gives up on might be the ones worth fighting for the most. Drake's grip tightened. Then teach me, Chen. Teach me how to see what you see. Teach me how to build instead of break. Maya held his gaze. That's going to take time. I have time. It's going to require you to change everything you believe. I'm ready. And it's going to hurt. Growth always hurts. Drake almost smiled. Private Chen, I've been in pain for 8 years. Ever since I lost my team in Afghanistan. Ever since I started believing that the only way to protect soldiers was to destroy them first. His voice cracked. I'm tired of being in pain. I'm tired of causing pain. Show me another way. Maya released his hand. Tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow we start. She walked to the door. Chen. She turned. Drake's face held something she had never seen there before. Something that looked almost like hope. Thank you for not giving up on your squad, on yourself. He paused. On me. Maya nodded once. Then she walked out into the evening air where Shadow Squad was waiting, where the future was waiting, where everything she had fought for was finally beginning to take shape. Shadow Squad was waiting outside Drake's office when Maya emerged. Thompson stepped forward first, his face tight with concern. What happened in there? We heard shouting. It wasn't shouting. It was understanding. Understanding. Gutierrez crossed his arms. The man who called you a weak bitch is suddenly understanding. People can change. Not that fast. Not him. Maya looked at her squad. 4 faces that had learned to trust her over the past weeks. 4 people who had been broken and rebuilt. 4 soldiers who deserved the truth. He knows about me now, she said quietly. About my past. About what I was before I came here. Morrison's eyes widened. How much does he know? Enough. Enough to understand why I am the way I am. Enough to realize that his methods weren't the only way. She paused. Enough to want to change. Reese shook her head slowly. I don't buy it. He's been breaking soldiers for 26 years. You don't just flip a switch and become someone else. No, you don't flip a switch. But you can start. You can take the first step. Maya met each of their eyes in turn. That's what we did, isn't it? We started. We took first steps. And look where we are now. The silence stretched between them. Then Thompson exhaled. Okay, I'll reserve judgment. But if he goes back to his old ways, then we deal with it, together, like we deal with everything. They walked back to the barracks as the sun began to set. The base was different now. Word had spread about Shadow Squad's victory, about Drake's outburst, about the impossible shot that had decided everything. Candidates they didn't know nodded at them as they passed. Some offered quiet congratulations. Others just stared, trying to understand how the rejects had become champions. Jackson intercepted them near the mess hall. Chen. Maya stopped. Jackson. He looked uncomfortable, his usual arrogance stripped away by defeat. I wanted to say, what you did out there today. The shot, the way you led your squad. It was... He struggled with the words. It was impressive. Thank you. I thought you were a fraud. When you first showed up, I thought Drake was right about you, that you were hiding something, that you didn't belong here. I am hiding something. Drake was right about that. Jackson blinked. Then, but he was wrong about everything else. And so were you. She walked past him, leaving him standing there with questions he didn't know how to ask. That night, Shadow Squad gathered in their barracks for the last time. Tomorrow, the program would reorganize. Squads would be reshuffled based on performance. The winners would receive new assignments, new opportunities, new paths forward. So what happens now? Morrison asked. We won. We proved everyone wrong. But where do we go from here? We keep going, Maya said. That's what soldiers do. We keep moving forward. But together. There was something vulnerable in his voice, something that reminded Maya of how far he had come. Will we stay together? I don't know. That's not up to me. It should be. Thompson leaned against his bunk. You built this squad. You made us what we are. You should get to decide what happens next. That's not how the military works. Maybe it should be. A knock at the door interrupted them. Wilson entered, his face grave. Chen, Drake wants to see you again. Now. Maya stood. Did he say why? No. But he's got brass with him. People I don't recognize. People who look like they don't officially exist. Maya's blood went cold. Stay here, she told her squad. Don't do anything until I get back. Maya, Thompson started. I mean it. Whatever this is, I need to handle it alone. She followed Wilson through the darkening base, her mind racing through possibilities. Had her deal been compromised? Had someone decided that her existence was too dangerous to tolerate? Drake's office was crowded when she arrived. 3 men in civilian clothes stood against the wall, their faces blank, their eyes missing nothing. Maya recognized the type, immediately intelligence operatives, the kind who didn't exist on any official roster. Drake sat behind his desk, looking older than he had that afternoon. Private Chen, come in. Close the door. She closed it. You know why they're here, Drake said. It wasn't a question. I can guess. One of the men stepped forward. His face was forgettable by design, the kind of face you'd pass on the street without a second glance. But his eyes were sharp, calculating, dangerous. Private Chen, or should I call you by your operational designation, Ghost 7? Maya didn't react. That designation was retired, along with everything associated with it. Designations can be unretired, especially when the asset in question demonstrates skills that remind certain people how valuable she was. I have a deal. Deals can be renegotiated. Drake stood abruptly. Now wait a minute. Whatever you're planning, she's still my soldier. She's still in my program. You can't just... We can do whatever we want, Master Chief. The operative's voice was flat, emotionless. Your program exists because we allow it to exist. Your career continues because we find you useful. Don't overestimate your importance." Drake's face flushed with anger, but he stayed silent. The operative turned back to Maya. "You've created quite a situation. Your performance in this competition has generated attention that certain people would prefer to avoid. I didn't do anything that any well-trained soldier couldn't do. You made a 1,000-yard shot under impossible conditions. You trained a squad of washouts to outperform elite candidates. You demonstrated capabilities that no private should possess." He stepped closer. "You reminded people what you are, and now they want you back." Maya's heart was pounding, but her voice stayed steady. "The deal was clear. I stay quiet. I disappear into conventional service, and everyone pretends Project Whisper never existed. I've held up my end. Circumstances have changed." "What circumstances?" The operative glanced at his colleagues. Something passed between them, a silent communication that Maya couldn't read. "There's a situation developing overseas. The kind of situation that requires specialized skills that very few people possess." He met her eyes. "Skills that you possess. Find someone else. There is no one else. The other assets from your generation are either dead or compromised. You're the only one left who can do what needs to be done." Maya felt the walls closing in. Everything she had built, everything she had fought for, it was all about to be taken away. "And if I refuse?" The operative's expression didn't change. "Then we'll have to reconsider our arrangement. All of it, including the protections you currently enjoy." "You're threatening me." "I'm informing you of the situation. Threats are for people who have options. You don't have options." Drake stepped between them. "That's enough. Whatever you're selling, she's not buying. This woman just won my program's competition. She's proven herself as a soldier. You don't get to waltz in here and recruit her for your shadow operations." "Master Chief, I said that's enough." Drake's voice cracked like a whip. "I don't care who you are or who you work for. Private Chen is my responsibility, and I'll be damned if I'm going to stand here and watch you drag her back into whatever hell she escaped from." The operative studied Drake with new interest. "This is unexpected. I was told you despised her, that you'd be happy to see her removed from your program. I was wrong about her. I've been wrong about a lot of things, but I'm not wrong about this." Drake's jaw tightened. "She's not going with you. That's not your decision to make. Then make it hers." The operative turned to Maya. "Well, what's your answer?" Maya looked at Drake, this man who had called her weak, who had tried to break her, who had now put himself between her and the darkness she had fled. She looked at the operatives, the representatives of a world she had thought she'd left behind. She looked at the door beyond which her squad was waiting, trusting her to come back. "My answer," she said slowly, "is that I need time. Time is not... You want me for a mission? Fine. Tell me what it is. Tell me why it has to be me. Tell me everything, and then I'll decide." The operative exchanged glances with his colleagues again. "That's not how this works." "Then change how it works. Because I'm not the person I was 3 years ago. I don't take orders blindly anymore. I don't follow instructions without understanding why. And I definitely don't agree to missions without knowing what I'm agreeing to. You're in no position to. I'm in the only position that matters. You said it yourself. I'm the only one who can do this job. That gives me leverage, so use it wisely or find another ghost." The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Then the lead operative smiled. It was not a pleasant smile, but it was something. "Admiral Patterson said you'd be difficult. He said you'd changed. I didn't believe him." He reached into his jacket and produced a folder. "Everything is in here. The situation, the target, the timeline. Review it. Make your decision. But understand, once you read this, there's no going back. You'll know things that will make you a target regardless of your choice." Maya took the folder. It was heavier than it looked. "You have 48 hours, the operative said. "After that, we'll need an answer, one way or another." They left without another word, slipping out of Drake's office like shadows returning to darkness. Drake collapsed into his chair. What the hell just happened? My past caught up with me. Maya stared at the folder in her hands. "It always does. You don't have to do this. Whatever's in that folder, whatever they're asking, you don't have to do it. You don't know what they're asking. I know that you came here to escape that life. I know that you've built something real with Shadow Squad. I know that walking back into that world could destroy everything you've worked for. Maya looked at him. You've changed a lot in the past few hours. Near-death experiences will do that. Not physical death, the death of everything you thought you understood. He leaned forward. I spent 26 years believing I knew how to make soldiers. Then you showed me I was wrong. That's the kind of thing that makes a man reconsider his entire existence. So what do you believe now? Drake was quiet for a long moment. I believe that strength isn't about destroying weakness. It's about transforming it. I believe that the soldiers we write off might be the ones with the most potential. And I believe that you're the first person in a very long time who's made me want to be better than I am. Maya didn't know how to respond to that. Read the folder, Drake said. Make your decision. But know this, whatever you decide, you have people here who will support you. You're not alone anymore. She walked back to the barracks in a daze. The folder felt like it weighed 100 pounds, like it contained not just paper, but the weight of all her past sins. Shadow Squad was waiting just as she'd told them to. What happened? Thompson was on his feet immediately. We saw them leave. Who were they? People from my old life. People who want me to come back. Come back where? Maya sat heavily on her bunk. To the life I left behind. To the things I used to do. Morrison's face went pale. You're not leaving, are you? I don't know. They've given me a choice. Or what they're calling a choice. What's in the folder? Gutierrez pointed at the object in her hands. I don't know yet. I haven't opened it. Reese moved to sit beside her. Then open it. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. This isn't your burden to carry. Bullshit. Thompson's voice was hard. You made us a squad. You taught us that we stand together or fall together. That doesn't stop being true just because the enemy is wearing suits instead of uniforms. Maya looked at them. 4 people who had been written off. 4 people who had found each other in the darkest moment of their military careers. 4 people who were now willing to stand with her against forces they couldn't begin to understand. She opened the folder. The first page hit her like a physical blow. Oh God. What is it? Maya's hands were shaking. The words on the page blurred and reformed, but their meaning was unmistakable. It's about Syria, she whispered. About my team. About what really happened. She read further, each page revealing new horrors. They're still alive. Who's still alive? My team. The people I thought died 3 years ago. Maya looked up, tears forming in her eyes. They didn't die. They were captured. They've been prisoners this whole time, and the agency knew. They knew, and they did nothing. The barracks was silent. These people, Thompson said carefully, the ones who came to see you, they're offering to help rescue your team. No. Maya's voice hardened. They're not offering to help rescue them. They're offering to let me rescue them. As a trade. I do this mission for them, and they give me the location of my team. I do what they want, and I get my people back. That's blackmail. That's how they operate. They don't ask. They leverage. Morrison stepped forward. So, what's the mission? What do they want you to do? Maya flipped to the operational briefing. Read it once, read it twice, read it a 3rd time to make sure she understood. They want me to kill someone, a target overseas, someone who's become a problem for people in high places. An assassination. They don't use that word. They call it targeted elimination. But yes, that's what it is. And if you refuse, then my team stays where they are. Prisoners. Forgotten. Left to rot in some black site that doesn't exist on any map. Gutierrez swore under his breath. That's not a choice. That's a trap. I know. So, what are you going to do? Maya stared at the folder for a long moment. 3 years ago, she would have known exactly what to do. Accept the mission. complete the objective, get her people back. That was how the world worked, but she wasn't that person anymore. I need to think, she said finally. I need time to process this. Take all the time you need. Reese put a hand on her shoulder. We're not going anywhere. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bunk reading and rereading the folder, trying to find another way. There had to be another way. There always was. But the more she read, the more she understood the trap she was in. The mission they were asking her to do wasn't just an assassination. It was a statement, a demonstration that Project Whisper was still active, still dangerous, still capable of reaching anyone, anywhere, at any time. If she did this, she wouldn't just be killing one person. She would be announcing to the world that she was back in the game. Every enemy she had ever made, every target she had ever touched, every ghost from her past, they would all come looking for her. But if she didn't do it, she thought about her team. Ramirez and his terrible jokes, Kim and her encyclopedic knowledge of history, Johnson and his obsession with terrible country music, Patterson and her quiet strength. They had been her family, the only real family she had ever known. And she had spent 3 years believing they were dead, mourning them, trying to move on from a loss that had nearly destroyed her. They were alive, somewhere, waiting for someone to come for them. How could she not go? A knock at her door, soft, tentative. Come in. Wilson entered, his face grave. Can't sleep either. Not tonight, maybe not ever again. He sat down across from her. I heard about what happened. Drake told me. Not everything, but enough. Enough to know I'm trapped. Enough to know you're facing an impossible choice. Wilson studied her carefully. You know, in 30 years of service, I've seen a lot of soldiers face impossible choices. Most of them break. A few of them find a way through. How do you find a way through when all the options are bad? You look for the option no one else can see, the door that isn't supposed to exist. He paused. You're good at that from what I understand. Finding doors that aren't supposed to exist. Maya considered this. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe you don't have to choose between doing their mission or abandoning your team. Maybe there's a third option. Such as doing the mission your way, on your terms, with your own objectives. Maya's mind began to race. They're asking me to kill someone. They're not asking how. They're not asking when. They're just asking for a result. Exactly. So if I find another way to achieve their result, a way that doesn't compromise everything I've built, then you get what you want, and they get what they want. Everybody wins. Maya looked at Wilson with new appreciation. You've thought about this before. I've had 30 years to think about a lot of things, including how people like you can survive in a system designed to destroy you. She turned back to the folder, seeing it now through different eyes. The target, the timeline, the location. There had to be something she could use, some angle that the operatives hadn't considered. She found it on page 12. Oh, she breathed. Oh, that's interesting. What? The target. He's not what they think he is. She pointed at a section of the briefing. They think he's working alone, a rogue agent who's become a liability. But look at his operational pattern. Look at who he's been meeting with. Wilson leaned in. What am I looking at? He's not rogue. He's being handled. Someone else is running him. Someone inside the agency itself. A mole. More than that, a network. And the people who sent me this folder, they're not trying to eliminate a problem. They're trying to eliminate a witness. The implications cascaded through Maya's mind. They want me to kill him before he can expose whatever he knows. They want me to clean up their mess without realizing I'm cleaning up anything at all. That changes things. It changes everything. Maya stood, her exhaustion forgotten. If I can find out what he knows, if I can get to him before they do, I might have leverage. Real leverage. The kind that could get my team back without becoming their assassin again. That's dangerous. If they find out what you're doing, then I'll deal with it. But I'm not going back to being what I was. Not for them, not for anyone. She met Wilson's eyes. I'm going to find another way. I'm going to save my team, and I'm going to expose whoever's really behind this. You're going to need help. I know. Shadow Squad. Maya hesitated. This isn't their fight. I won't drag them into something that could get them killed. You might not have a choice, and more importantly, they might not give you a choice. These are people who chose to follow you when no one else would. Asking them to sit out might be the one thing they won't agree to. Maya knew he was right. She had built Shadow Squad on the principle that they stood together. She couldn't abandon that principle now, even to protect them. Okay, she said, gather them, and get Drake too. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. By Oro 500, they were all assembled in a secure room that Wilson had arranged. Shadow Squad, Drake, and Wilson himself, the unlikely team that Maya had built without even realizing it. She laid out everything. The folder, the ultimatum. Her team being held prisoner. The assassination they wanted her to perform. And most importantly, what she had discovered about the target's real value. When she finished, the room was silent. Thompson spoke first. So let me get this straight. You're not going to kill this guy. You're going to find out what he knows, use it as leverage to free your team, and expose whoever's trying to clean up their mess. That's the plan. Against an agency that doesn't officially exist, with resources we can't imagine and reach we can't comprehend. Yes. Thompson grinned. I'm in. Me too, Gutierrez added. Sounds like the kind of crazy that might actually work. Morrison nodded. Where you go, I go. You taught me that fear isn't something to run from. Time to prove I learned the lesson. Reese was last. She studied Maya with thoughtful eyes. This could destroy all of us. Our careers, our lives, everything. I know. That's why I'm giving you the choice. If anyone wants out, no judgment, I understand. Reese smiled slowly. I didn't say I wanted out. I just wanted to make sure you understood the stakes. She stood. Shadow Squad doesn't abandon its own. Your team was your family. That makes them our responsibility, too. Drake cleared his throat. I'm not officially part of this squad, but I'd like to offer my services regardless. Maya looked at him in surprise. You'd risk your career for this. My career isn't worth much if it means abandoning soldiers who need help. You taught me that. He straightened. Besides, I have contacts, resources, knowledge of how these people operate. If you're going to take on the shadow world, you'll need someone who understands how they think. Maya felt something shift in her chest. These people broken, damaged, written off by everyone who should have believed in them, they were willing to risk everything for her team, for a mission that might be impossible. Okay, she said. Then we plan. We prepare. And when they come for my answer in 47 hours, we'll be ready to give them one they never expected. She looked around the room at the faces of her unlikely allies. Shadow Squad. We started as failures. We became champions. Now we become something else. What's that? Morrison asked. Maya smiled. It was not a gentle smile. We become ghosts. The kind that don't just disappear. The kind that haunt the people who created them. She spread the folder out on the table. Let's get to work. The next 40 hours passed in a blur of planning, preparation, and calculated risk. Maya had mapped out the target's location, his routine, his vulnerabilities. Drake had used his contacts to verify the intelligence. Wilson had secured equipment through channels that didn't officially exist. And Shadow Squad had trained for the insertion with the same intensity they had brought to the competition. But none of them were prepared for what happened next. The operatives came back early. Maya was in the middle of a final briefing when the door burst open. 3 men in tactical gear weapons raised faces hidden behind balaclavas. Private Chen, you need to come with us. Now. Thompson moved to intercept. She's not going anywhere until... The lead operative raised his weapon. This isn't a discussion. Maya stepped forward, putting herself between the weapon and her squad. What's this about? I still have 7 hours. Timeline changed. The target is moving. If we don't act now, we lose him. That's convenient. That's reality. Now move. Drake emerged from the back of the room. Stand down, all of you. Master Chief, this doesn't concern. Everything that happens on this base concerns me, and I'm not letting you take one of my soldiers without proper authorization. The operative's weapon shifted toward Drake. Authorization comes from people above your pay grade. Show me. What? Show me the authorization. In writing. With signatures I can verify. Drake's voice was steel. Because right now all I see is 3 armed men trying to kidnap a soldier under my command. That's grounds for defensive action. Maya watched the standoff with calculating eyes. Something was wrong. The operatives were nervous. She could see it in their micro-movements, the slight tremor in their trigger fingers. This wasn't an official extraction. Thompson, she said quietly. Morrison, cover the door. Chen, do it. They moved, positioning themselves to cut off the only exit. The lead operative noticed. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'm protecting myself. Because you're not here on official business, are you? I don't know what your weapons are wrong. Standard agency issue is the Glock 19. You're carrying Sig Sauers, private contractors, not agency. Maya stepped closer, her body language shifting from defensive to predatory. Someone hired you to grab me before I could make my decision. Someone who knew that if I had time to think, I might figure out what's really going on. The operative's mask slipped literally. Maya saw his eyes widen with surprise. She was on him before he could react. The fight lasted less than 10 seconds. Maya's body moved in ways that shouldn't have been possible, fluid, precise, devastating. She disarmed the first operative with a strike to his wrist, used his own weapon to cover the second, and had the third on the ground with her knee on his throat before anyone else could react. Who sent you? Her voice was ice. The man struggled. I don't. She applied pressure. Wrong answer. Try again. I can't. They'll kill me. I'll kill you faster. Who sent you? The man's eyes were wild with fear. Patterson, Admiral Patterson. He said you were getting too close, that you'd figured out the truth about the target. Maya's blood went cold. Patterson, the director of Project Whisper, the man who had promised to leave her alone. What truth? The target isn't a rogue agent. He's got evidence, documents, proof that Patterson authorized the ambush that killed your team, proof that it was never about eliminating a target, it was about eliminating witnesses. The room went silent. My team, Maya whispered. Patterson said they were captured, that they're being held prisoner. The man's face crumpled. There is no prison. There never was. Your team is dead. Has been for 3 years. Patterson made up the story to manipulate you into doing this mission. Maya felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Dead. They were dead. Had always been dead. Everything she had been promised, everything she had hoped for, it was all a lie. A manipulation designed to turn her back into the weapon she had fought so hard to stop being. Chen, Drake's voice cut through the fog. Chen, stay with me. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The faces of her team flashed through her mind. Ramirez, Kim, Johnson, Patterson. People she had loved, people she had mourned, people she had allowed herself to hope might still be alive. Gone. All of them. Gone. Maya. Thompson was beside her now. Whatever you're feeling, we can deal with it later. Right now, we need to secure these men and figure out our next move. Maya forced herself to focus. The grief could wait. The rage could wait. Right now, she needed to think. Gutierrez, restrain them. Morrison, find Wilson. We need a secure communications line. Her voice was steady, though her hands were shaking. Drake, I need everything you can get me on Admiral Patterson. Every contact, every operation, every secret he's ever tried to hide. What are you going to do? Maya looked at the operative beneath her knee. I'm going to burn his world to the ground. The next 6 hours were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Drake's contacts came through with intelligence that should have been impossible to obtain. Wilson secured a direct line to the Pentagon Inspector General's office, and Maya compiled everything: the evidence the target had gathered, the testimony of the captured contractors, the documentation of Patterson's years of illegal operations. But it wasn't enough. Evidence could be buried. Testimonies could be discredited. Patterson had survived decades of investigations by being smarter than everyone who tried to take him down. Maya needed something more, something undeniable. She found it in the most unlikely place. Chen, Thompson burst into the planning room. "You need to see this." He led her to the communications center where Morrison was monitoring frequencies they shouldn't have been able to access. "I picked this up about 20 minutes ago. Encrypted, but Wilson managed to break it." He pressed play. Patterson's voice filled the room, clear, unmistakable, damning. "The Chen asset is becoming a liability. I want her eliminated before she can connect the Syria operation to us. Make it look like an accident training exercise gone wrong, something the military can write off." A second voice responded. "And if she's already shared what she knows, then eliminate whoever she shared it with. The entire shadow squad if necessary. No witnesses." Maya listened with a face carved from stone. "When was this recorded?" 2 hours ago, while you were planning." Thompson's expression was grim. "He's not just trying to silence you, Maya. He's trying to kill all of us." Maya turned to Drake. "How long before his people get here?" Drake was already on his phone. "My contacts say they're mobilizing now. We have maybe 3 hours before this base is locked down." "Then we don't have time to do this the right way." Maya's mind raced through options. "We need to go public, now, before they can contain this." Public, how the media won't touch a story this classified without verification. Then we give them verification they can't ignore. Maya turned to Morrison. "That recording, can you broadcast it?" "To where?" "Everywhere. Every news outlet, every military frequency, every government agency that Patterson doesn't control. Flood the airwaves. Make it impossible to suppress." Morrison's eyes widened. "That would be treason. We'd be exposing classified operations. We'd be exposing criminal operations. There's a difference." Maya met his eyes. "I'm not asking you to do this. I'm asking if you can do this." Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I can do it. Give me 30 minutes. You have 15. The broadcast went out at 03:47 hours. Morrison had exceeded expectations. The recording played simultaneously on 6 major news networks, 12 military frequencies, and directly into the secure communication systems of the Pentagon, the CIA, and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Within minutes, phones were ringing across Washington. Within an hour, military police had locked down Peterson Air Force Base, where Patterson was located. Within 2 hours, federal marshals were moving to secure witnesses and evidence. And at 0600 hours, Maya received a call she had been expecting. "Private Chen." The voice on the other end was cold, controlled, furious. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Admiral Patterson, I was wondering when you'd call. You've destroyed everything. Years of operations, networks that took decades to build. All gone because you couldn't follow simple instructions. Your instructions were to kill an innocent man and cover up your crimes. Those weren't instructions, they were war crimes. You were supposed to be a weapon. Weapons don't have consciences. Then you built me wrong." Maya's voice hardened. "Or maybe you built me exactly right and that's what scares you. Because I remember what you taught me. I remember how to dismantle networks and expose lies and bring down people who think they're untouchable. This isn't over, Chen. I still have resources. I still have allies. You think a single recording is going to stop me? No. I think a dozen recordings will. Plus the documents the target had compiled. Plus the testimony of the 3 contractors you sent to kidnap me. Plus the evidence that Drake's contacts have been gathering for the past 6 hours." She paused. "You're finished, Admiral. The only question is whether you go down fighting or whether you make it easy on yourself." Silence on the other end. Then Patterson laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You know what the funny thing is? I always knew you'd be the one to destroy me." Even when you were 17 and we were just starting your training, I saw something in your eyes, something that said you'd never really be ours. You should have listened to your instincts. I should have killed you when I had the chance." His voice dropped. "But I suppose it doesn't matter now. You've won, Private Chen. Enjoy your victory while it lasts." The line went dead. Maya lowered the phone slowly. "What did he say?" Thompson asked. "He said I won." "Did you?" Maya looked at her squad, these broken soldiers who had become champions, these rejects, who had stood with her against impossible odds. She thought about her team, the people she had lost, the people she would never get back. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But I survived, and so did you. Right now, that's enough." The aftermath unfolded over the following weeks. Patterson was arrested along with 17 other officials connected to Project Whisper's illegal operations. Congressional hearings were scheduled, investigations were launched. The shadow world that had created Maya was being dragged into the light. But for Maya, the most important changes were happening closer to home. Shadow Squad had been formally recognized for their role in exposing the conspiracy. Their records had been updated to reflect their actual achievements. The labels that had followed them, washout, failure, reject, had been replaced with new ones. Hero, whistleblower, patriot. Drake had been offered early retirement with full honors. He had declined. "I've spent 26 years breaking soldiers," he told Maya the day the offer came. "I figure I owe at least that many years building them up." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm starting over. New program, new methods, based on everything you taught me." He met her eyes. "I'm calling it the Shadow Protocol. For soldiers who don't fit the mold. Soldiers who have potential that traditional training can't develop." Maya felt something shift in her chest. "You're building a program for people like us." "I'm building a program because of people like you. The military needs soldiers who can think differently, adapt quickly, overcome obstacles that would break normal people. Shadow Squad proved that those soldiers exist, they're just being overlooked. And you want me to help run it?" Drake nodded. "I want you to help design it, train the trainers, show them how to see what you see." He paused. "If you're interested." Maya considered the offer. 3 months ago, she had come to this base hoping to disappear, hoping to become nobody, hoping to escape the ghosts that had haunted her since Syria. Now she was being offered a chance to build something, to create, to transform the institution that had failed so many people like her. "Yes," she said. "I'm interested." 3 months later, Maya stood on the edge of the parade ground as a new cycle of recruits arrived. The summer heat was punishing just as it had been the day she first stepped off that bus. Young faces filled with fear and hope and determination. Bodies that had passed the minimum requirements but hadn't yet discovered what they were truly capable of. Shadow Squad had moved on. Thompson was in officer candidate school, his temper finally channeled into leadership. Gutierrez had been accepted into explosive ordnance disposal training, his street survival instincts being transformed into something that would save lives. Morrison was working with military psychologists helping develop new protocols for soldiers dealing with combat trauma. Reese had received experimental surgery on her knee and was rehabbing for a return to full duty. They had all found their paths. They had all become more than anyone expected. And now it was time to start again. "Impressive group this cycle," Wilson said, appearing beside her. 43 candidates. About 15% have flags on their files." "Which 15%? "The usual. Psych concerns. Physical limitations. Attitude problems. The ones that traditional programs would wash out in the first week." Maya nodded slowly. "Those are the ones I want." "I figured you'd say that." Drake approached from the command building. His bearing was different now, less aggressive, more measured. The predator was still there, but it had learned patience. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready." They walked toward the formation together. 43 pairs of eyes tracked their approach. Maya stopped in front of the group and let the silence build. "I'm Private First Class Maya Chen," she said, "and I'm going to tell you something that no one told me when I arrived here." She paused, letting her gaze move across the faces before her. "Some of you are scared. Some of you are confident. Some of you already think you know what you're getting into. Her voice hardened. You're wrong, all of you, because the next 16 weeks are going to break down everything you think you know about yourself and rebuild it from the ground up. A few of the candidates shifted uncomfortably. But here's the part they don't tell you in recruitment. Here's the truth that most trainers will never admit. Maya stepped closer. Being broken isn't weakness. Being broken is the beginning. Because the only way to become truly strong is to have all your illusions stripped away, to face the darkest parts of yourself, and to rebuild on a foundation of truth instead of lies. She could see confusion on some faces, recognition on others. I know some of you have flags on your files. I know some of you have been told you don't belong here. I know some of you are already thinking about quitting because you believe what they said about you. Her voice dropped. They were wrong. Every single one of them. Because the soldiers they rejected, the ones they called failures, the ones they wrote off before giving them a chance, those are exactly the soldiers this program is designed to develop. A young woman near the back of the formation caught Maya's attention. Small, slight, with eyes that held both fear and determination. Something about her reminded Maya of herself a lifetime ago. You, Maya said, pointing at her. Step forward. The woman hesitated, then moved to stand in front of the formation. Name. Private Jessica Reyes, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. I work for a living. Maya circled her slowly. They put a flag on your file, didn't they, Reyes? The young woman's jaw tightened. Yes, Ma. Yes. What kind of flag? Physical qualification concerns. She hesitated. I'm smaller than the minimum recommendation. You're 5 feet tall and 98 pounds. I read your file. Maya stopped in front of her. Do you know why you're still here, Reyes? Why they didn't just send you home with a polite rejection letter? No. Because I requested you specifically. Maya let that sink in. I looked at every file flagged for concerns. I looked at the ones that traditional programs would reject, and I picked the ones I thought had potential that no one else could see. Reyes's eyes widened. You ran a 7-minute mile with a 40-pound pack during your qualification test. You scored in the top 3% on tactical reasoning. And you have a background in competitive shooting that no one bothered to notice because they were too focused on how small you are. You saw all that. I see everything, Reyes. That's my job now. Maya addressed the entire formation again. This program is called Shadow Protocol, and for the next 16 weeks, we're going to do something that the military doesn't usually do. We're going to take the soldiers that everyone else gave up on, and we're going to show them what they're really capable of. She turned back to Reyes. Return to formation. Reyes moved back, but something had changed in her posture. She was standing straighter. Her fear had been replaced by something else. Hope. Maya recognized it. She had felt it herself once, when Thompson had first stood beside her, when Morrison had conquered his tunnel, when Shadow Squad had become a family instead of just a collection of broken pieces. From this moment forward, Maya said, your old labels mean nothing. Your old limitations mean nothing. The only thing that matters is what you do from this point on. She paused. Some of you will fail. That's inevitable. But failure isn't the end, it's information. It tells you where you need to grow. It shows you the path forward. Drake stepped up beside her. I'm Master Chief Drake, he said, and Maya heard the difference in his voice immediately. Still commanding, still powerful, but without the cruelty that had defined him before. I've spent 26 years training soldiers. Most of that time I thought my job was to break people. I was wrong. The candidates exchanged uncertain glances. My job is to help you discover what you're made of, to push you past limits you didn't know you had, to transform potential into performance. His eyes swept the formation. Private Chen and I don't agree on everything. We have different methods, different philosophies, but we agree on one thing: every single one of you has more inside you than you realize. Our job is to help you find it. Maya felt something warm bloom in her chest. This was right. This was what she was supposed to be doing. Fall out, she ordered. Gear up. Training begins in 30 minutes. The formation dispersed. 43 soldiers moving toward their barracks, toward their futures, toward whatever transformations awaited them. Reyes lingered. Private Chen. Maya turned. Yes. I just wanted to say... Reyes hesitated. I've heard stories about you, about what happened during the competition, about Shadow Squad and Master Chief Drake and the operatives and everything. Stories have a way of growing in the telling. Maybe, but everyone says you proved something, that the soldiers everyone gives up on can be the ones who accomplish impossible things. Reyes straightened. I want to be like that. I want to prove them wrong about me. Maya looked at this young woman who reminded her so much of herself. Small, underestimated, burning with potential that no one else could see. Then don't tell me, Maya said. Show me. Starting in 30 minutes. Reyes nodded, her eyes bright with determination. I won't let you down. No, you won't let yourself down. There's a difference. Reyes jogged toward the barracks, leaving Maya alone on the parade ground. Wilson appeared beside her. You know, when you first arrived here, I told Drake you were different. I said something was happening with Shadow Squad that I'd never seen before. And now I'm watching you start the process all over again, creating something from nothing, building soldiers out of people everyone else rejected. He shook his head slowly. You're going to change everything, Chen. The whole way we think about military training. I'm just doing what someone should have done for me a long time ago, what someone finally did when Shadow Squad came together. And that is... Maya watched the recruits disappearing into the barracks. 43 young soldiers about to embark on the hardest journey of their lives. 43 potential transformations waiting to happen. Believing, she said. Just believing. Because sometimes that's all it takes. One person who sees what you could be instead of what you are. One voice that says you belong here when everyone else says you don't. Wilson was quiet for a moment. You know, most people who've been through what you've been through end up broken, bitter, unable to trust anyone ever again. I was broken. I was bitter. I didn't trust anyone. So, what changed? Maya thought about Thompson's fierce loyalty, Gutierrez's gradual opening, Morrison conquering his demons, Reese fighting through pain that would have stopped anyone else. She thought about Drake's transformation, Wilson's quiet support, the unexpected family she had found in the last place she ever expected. I found people worth trusting, she said finally, and they showed me that being broken isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a different one. Her phone buzzed. A message from Thompson. OCS is kicking my ass. But I keep remembering what you said, strength isn't about not falling. It's about getting back up. Thanks for that. A second message from Morrison. The psychologist asked me to present my experience to the next group of trauma patients. Me presenting. 3 months ago, I couldn't even talk about what happened. Now I'm helping others. That's because of you. A third from Gutierrez. EOD training is intense, but nothing compared to your night sessions. Pretty sure you ruined me for normal difficulty levels. And finally, Reese. Knees at 80%. Doctors say I'll never be 100%. I told them 80% of me is still more than 100% of most people. Shadow Squad forever. Maya smiled at the messages. Her squad scattered across the country, now pursuing their individual paths, but still connected. Still family. Drake walked up beside her. Ready to begin? Almost. Maya looked at the sky where the sun was beginning its daily climb. Somewhere up there, her old team was watching. Ramirez, Kim, Johnson, Patterson. The people she had lost. The people she would carry with her always. I hope you can see this, she thought. I hope you know that your deaths meant something. That I'm using what they made me into to help people instead of hurt them. She turned to Drake. Now, I'm ready. They walked toward the training ground together, toward the 43 soldiers waiting to begin their transformation toward a future that Maya had never dared to imagine. Behind them, the sun rose over Naval Special Warfare Training Center. A new day, a new beginning, a new generation of shadows learning to step into the light. And at the front of the first formation, Private Jessica Reyes stood at attention, 98 pounds of determination, in a world that had told her she was too small to matter. She didn't know yet that in 16 weeks she would graduate at the top of her class. She didn't know that in 2 years she would become the youngest female JTAC in military history. She didn't know that one day she would stand where Maya was standing now, helping the next generation of soldiers find their potential. All she knew was that someone had finally believed in her, and that was enough. Maya Chen looked at the soldiers assembled before her, the broken, the overlooked, the underestimated, and saw exactly what she had seen in Shadow Squad. Not failures waiting to happen, legends waiting to be born. Listen up, she called, her voice carrying across the formation. Today, you stop being whoever you were. Today, you start becoming who you're meant to be. She paused, letting the moment settle. Welcome to Shadow Protocol. Welcome to the rest of your lives. And welcome to a family that will never give up on you, no matter how many times you fall. She drew herself to full height, all 5 feet 2 inches of her, and faced the future without fear. Now let's get to work. Because Maya Chen had learned something that no training program could teach and no enemy could destroy. Real strength was never about the battles you won. It was about the soldiers you built, the fears you helped others overcome, the voice that said you belong here when the whole world said you didn't. That was the legacy worth leaving. That was what made a warrior. And Maya Chen, the smallest soldier with the strongest heart, was just getting started.